The frontier had a way of grinding people down to their smallest selves, and Mara Whitlock had learned to live there, in that narrow space between breathing and disappearing. She stood behind the counter of Whitlock's trading post, hands pressed flat against the worn wood, counting the grain sacks for the third time, though the number hadn't changed. 27. Same as 10 minutes ago. Same as this morning. But counting gave her something to do with her eyes. Somewhere to look that wasn't at the three men who'd been drinking since noon, their voices getting louder, their laughter getting meaner. "Hey, Scarecrow!" Tommy Brennan's voice cut through the dusty air. He was the youngest of the three, maybe 25, with the kind of confidence that came from never having been told no. His brothers, Dale and Curtis, flanked him like bookends. Bigger, dumber, meaner. Mara kept counting. 28. No, 27. Her fingers trembled slightly. "I'm talking to you." The thing about being invisible was that you had to commit to it. Halfway didn't work. Halfway got you noticed, and getting noticed got you hurt. So Mara had learned, over 23 years of mockery and sideways glances and whispered conversations that stopped when she entered a room, to make herself so small that people's eyes just slid past. It had worked, mostly. Until today. "You deaf and ugly?" Dale laughed, slapping the counter hard enough to make the oil lamp jump. "Jesus, Tommy, maybe she really is a scarecrow. Probably got straw for brains, too." Her father's voice echoed in her head. "Just let it go, Mara. Words don't hurt nothing but your pride, and pride don't feed us." Jacob Whitlock had said that the first time she'd come home crying, 7 years old, gap-toothed, and gangly. He'd said it when she was 12, and the Hutchins boy had called her a fence post with hair. He'd said it at 16 when Mary Beth Callahan asked, loud enough for the whole church to hear, if Mara was actually a girl or just a very unfortunate boy. 27 sacks. Focus on the sacks. "My brother asked you a question." Curtis moved closer. She could smell the whiskey on him, sour and thick. "It's rude not to answer when someone's talking to you." I'm counting inventory." Oh, her voice came out smaller than she'd intended, quieter. "I need to finish before what?" Tommy was directly in front of her now, leaning across the counter. His breath smelled like rot. "Before your daddy gets back? That it?" Her stomach dropped. They knew he was gone. Of course they knew. Jacob had left at dawn to run supplies to the Patterson ranch. Wouldn't be back until tomorrow. Everyone knew everyone's business out here. That was how the frontier worked. "We just need some provisions," Tommy continued, his smile wrong somehow. "That's what trading posts are for, ain't it? Trading?" "Yes." She forced herself to meet his eyes. That was a mistake. What do you need?" "Well, now, that depends." He reached across the counter, picked up a can of peaches, turned it over in his hands like he was examining it. "What are you willing to trade?" Dale laughed. Curtis grinned, and Mara felt something cold settle into her chest. "Money," she said. "We trade for money. See, that's the thing." Tommy set the can down, but his hand stayed on the counter, inches from hers. "We're a little short on funds right now. Thought maybe we could work something else out." She pulled her hands back, crossed her arms, made herself smaller. "I can't extend credit. My father doesn't—" "Your father ain't here." The words hung in the air like smoke. "Store's closing," Mara said, and was surprised to hear her voice almost steady. "You'll have to come back tomorrow when—" Tommy vaulted over the counter. She stumbled backward, hit the shelf behind her. Jars rattled. One fell, shattered on the floor, pickles and vinegar spreading across the boards. "We ain't done shopping." His voice was still friendly. That made it worse somehow. "Don't be rude, Scarecrow." "Please?" The word tasted like ash. "Just take what you need and go. I won't tell anyone. I promise I won't." "Won't tell anyone what?" Dale had circled around, was blocking the back door. "We ain't done nothing wrong, just trying to conduct some business." Curtis grabbed a bottle of whiskey off the shelf, took a long drink. "Damn, this is good stock. Your daddy knows his liquor. I'll give him that." "You need to leave." Mara's back was pressed against the shelf now. Nowhere to go. "Please, I'll forget you were here, just—" Tommy reached out, grabbed her wrist. His grip was iron. "Let go." "Or what?" His smile widened. "You gonna make me? Big, strong girl like you?" She tried to pull away. He held tighter. I said let... He yanked her forward, and she stumbled, fell against him. His other hand caught her waist, held her there. There we go, he murmured. See? You just needed some encouragement. Terror shot through her like lightning. She shoved against his chest, useless, like pushing a wall, and opened her mouth to scream. Dale's hand clamped over her face. None of that now, he said pleasantly. We're all friends here. The world narrowed to heartbeat and panic. She couldn't breathe, couldn't think. Her mind was screaming, run, 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 but her body wouldn't move, frozen in some animal response she didn't understand. Tommy's hand moved to her throat. You know what your problem is? His voice was conversational, like they were discussing the weather. You think you're better than us, walking around with that prissy little face, acting like you're too good to even look at. The front door opened. Everyone froze. The man who stepped through was tall, not freakishly so, but tall enough that he had to duck slightly under the doorframe. Dusty coat, worn boots, a rifle slung across his back like it belonged there. His face was weathered, hard-edged, maybe 40 or maybe 30. The frontier-aged people funny. Dark hair pulled back, jaw covered in several days' worth of stubble. His eyes were gray, and when they landed on Mara pressed against Tommy with Dale's hand over her mouth and Curtis blocking the door, something shifted in them. Something cold. Store closed? His voice was quiet, calm. Yeah. Tommy didn't let go of Mara. Private business. Come back tomorrow. The man's gaze moved from Tommy to Dale to Curtis, then back to Mara. He looked at her for a long moment, not the way men usually looked at her, with pity or disgust or that blank sliding past. He looked at her like he was taking inventory, cataloging. Doesn't look private, he said. Well, it is. Curtis stepped forward, trying to look intimidating. So why don't you... The man moved. Later, Mara would try to remember the sequence of events, but it happened too fast. One moment, Curtis was standing. The next, he was on the floor, blood pouring from his nose, making sounds like a wounded dog. The rifle was in the man's hands now, not pointing at anyone, just present. A statement. Dale's hand fell away from Mara's mouth. Tommy still had her wrist. He looked at the stranger, then at Curtis writhing on the floor, then back at the stranger. You just made a big mistake, Tommy said. Probably. The man's voice hadn't changed, still calm, still quiet. Make a lot of those. Let her go and we'll call it even. You don't know who you're... The rifle moved. Not much. Just enough. Tommy let go. Mara stumbled sideways, caught herself on the counter. Her wrist throbbed. Her throat felt like someone had wrapped wire around it. Get out, the stranger said. This ain't over. Tommy was backing toward the door, trying to maintain some dignity. You hear me? This ain't... It is. The man stepped forward. Just one step, but Tommy flinched. Take your brothers and go. Curtis was up now, leaning on Dale, blood all down his shirt. They shuffled toward the door like whipped dogs. Tommy went last, pausing in the doorway. You're dead, he said to the stranger. Then to Mara, You too, Scarecrow. The door slammed. Silence crashed down like a physical thing. Mara stood there, shaking, her wrist still throbbing where Tommy had grabbed her, the pickles on the floor, the broken glass, her heart hammering so hard it hurt. The stranger lowered his rifle, leaned it against the wall, pulled off his hat. You hurt? She shook her head. Couldn't speak yet. He studied her for a moment, then moved to the door, threw the bolt, checked the back door, locked, returned to where she stood. Sit down before you fall down. I'm fine. You're not. He pulled out a stool from behind the counter. Sit. She sat. Her legs gave out about halfway down and she dropped the last few inches harder than intended. The man crouched, started picking up the larger pieces of broken glass. His hands were scarred, capable. Working hands. You shouldn't have done that, Mar heard herself say. He glanced up. Which part? Any of it. They'll come back. They'll bring more people. Probably. He dropped glass into the waste bin. What's your name? Mara Whitlock. Rowan Hale. He stood, wiped his hands on his pants. Your father run this place? Yes, he's at the Patterson Ranch. Won't be back until tomorrow. Those men know that? She nodded miserably. Rowan moved to the window, peered through the dusty glass toward the street. They'll likely come back tonight. Bring friends. Finish what they started. Terror spiked through her again. I don't have anywhere to... You got a gun? What? A gun. Do you have one? There's a rifle behind the counter, but I don't know how to use it. She shook her head. He sighed, pulled out a chair, sat down across from her. Up close, she could see the lines around his eyes, the scar cutting through his left eyebrow, the way his coat was patched in 3 places. Can't run, he said. They'll track you. Can't hide, same problem. Can't wait for your father. They won't wait that long, so you got 2 choices. He held up one finger. Fight. Second finger. Or I can stay until your father gets back. Why would you do that? Do what? Help me. You don't know me. You don't owe me anything. Something flickered across his face. No, he said. I don't. They sat in silence for a moment. Outside, the sun was starting to set, painting the dust-caked windows orange. I can't pay you, Mara said finally. Didn't ask you to. Then why? He stood, walked back to the window. Because 20 years ago I had a sister about your age. She worked in a mining camp cookhouse. 3 men cornered her one night. His voice was flat, empty. Nobody helped her. Mara's throat closed. She lived, Rowan continued. If you can call it that. Lasted about 6 months before she hung herself in the barn. He turned to look at her. So when I see 3 men cornering one woman, I help. Simple as that. I'm sorry. Don't be sorry. Be ready. He picked up his rifle. Show me what you got for weapons. Tama. The next 2 hours passed in a blur. Rowan went through her father's entire inventory, not looking for supplies, but for weapons. He found the rifle behind the counter, 2 old pistols in the back room, a hunting knife in a drawer, laid them all out on the counter like he was preparing for war. Your father know how to shoot? He asked. Some. He was in the army, long time ago. These loaded? I don't know. He checked. They weren't. He loaded them with movements so practiced they looked like breathing. What about you? He held out the smallest pistol. Ever fired anything? No. Not even a rifle? Hunting? She shook her head. Jesus. He set the pistol down. All right. Come here. What? Come here. I'm going to show you how not to shoot your own foot off. I can't. I don't want to. Don't care what you want. His voice wasn't mean, just matter of fact. Those men are coming back. Maybe tonight, maybe tomorrow, but they're coming. And when they do, you need to know which end of this thing makes the loud noise. Mara stood, moved around the counter. Her hands were still shaking. Rowan picked up the pistol, checked it again, then handed it to her. Hold it like... No, not like that. You're not picking up a dead rat. Firm grip. 2 hands if you need them. The gun was heavier than she'd expected. Cold. Her finger found the trigger automatically. Not yet. He reached over, moved her finger to rest along the barrel. Trigger discipline. Don't touch that until you're ready to shoot, which you're not. You're barely ready to hold it. This is pointless. She tried to hand it back. I can't do this. Can't or won't. What's the difference? One's ability, one's choice. He didn't take the gun. Now, see that can on the shelf? The one with the peaches? She nodded. Point the gun at it. We're inside. You'll miss by 3 feet and hit the wall. Point. She raised the pistol, arm extended, hand shaking so badly the barrel wobbled. Breathe, Rowan said. You're not dying. You're just holding metal. Breathe. She tried. Her heart was hammering. Now. When you're ready, not when I say. When you feel ready, squeeze the trigger. Don't pull. Don't jerk. Squeeze. I can't. You can. You just don't want to. There's a difference. Mara stared at the can, at the painted peach on the label. Her finger moved to the trigger. The gun felt alive in her hands, dangerous, like holding lightning. She squeezed. The explosion was enormous. The kick slammed her hands back, nearly made her drop the weapon. Her ears rang. Smoke filled the air. The can sat untouched on the shelf. The wall 3 feet to the left had a new hole in it. Well, Rowan said, you didn't shoot yourself. That's a start. I missed. Yep. By a lot. Yep. He took the gun, checked it. But you pulled the trigger. That's the hard part. Is it? For most people? Yeah. He handed it back. Again. The wall is already shot. Your father will be mad either way. Might as well get some practice in. Again. She raised the pistol, aimed. Her hand shook less this time. Breathe, Rowan reminded her. She squeezed. Another explosion. Another miss, but closer this time. The shot went wide right, punched through a bag of flour on the next shelf over. White powder erupted into the air like snow. Better, Rowan said. I hit flour. You hit something. That's progress. Again. By the 10th shot, her ears were completely numb. The trading post smelled like gunpowder and flour. She'd hit the can once, a glancing blow that sent it spinning but didn't knock it over. Enough! Rowan took the pistol, began reloading it. You're not going to be a sharpshooter by morning, but you might hit something close range. Maybe. This is insane. Mara slumped against the counter. Her arms ached. Her hands smelled like metal. I can't fight them. I can barely hold the gun. No, he agreed. You can't. Then what's the point? He looked at her, really looked at her, the way he had when he'd first walked in, taking inventory. The point, he said, is that when they come through that door, you're not helpless. You might still lose. Probably will, honestly. But you're not helpless. There's a difference. I don't see how. You will. He set the loaded pistol on the counter. If you live long enough, that's. Night fell like a curtain. Rowan barricaded the doors with furniture, not enough to stop anyone determined, but enough to slow them down. He positioned the rifles near the windows, the pistols within easy reach, moved through the trading post like he'd done this 100 times before. Maybe he had. Mara sat behind the counter, the pistol in her lap, watching him work. Her wrist still throbbed. Her throat felt bruised. She kept replaying the moment Tommy had grabbed her, Dale's hand over her mouth, the way her body had just stopped, frozen. Why did I freeze? She asked. Rowan looked up from the window he was checking. What? When they grabbed me, I just froze. Couldn't move. Couldn't think. She stared at the pistol. Why? He was quiet for a moment. Because that's what people do. When bad things happen, your body picks. Fight, run, or freeze. You froze. That's pathetic. That's human. He moved to the next window. First time someone put a gun to my head, I pissed myself. Literally pissed myself. Stood there crying like a child while the man decided whether to kill me. What happened? He didn't kill me. Took my money, my boots, and my dignity, but he didn't kill me. Rowan checked the bolt on the back door. Next time someone pulled a gun on me, I shot him in the chest before he could say a word. That's different. Is it? You're not like me. No, he agreed. I've had more practice dying, but the fear's the same. Outside, footsteps, voices. They both froze. Rowan moved to the window, peered out. 4 men, he said quietly. The 3 from before and one I don't recognize. They're just standing there, talking. Mara's heart started hammering. What do we do? We wait. For what? To see what they do. The minutes stretched. The voices outside got louder, angrier. She could hear Tommy's voice above the others, though she couldn't make out words. Then, footsteps. Coming toward the door. Rowan raised his rifle. A knock. Polite. Almost friendly. Mara? Tommy's voice. Come on out. We just want to talk. She didn't move, didn't breathe. Your friend in there? Tommy continued. That's fine. He can come too. We just want to settle this peaceful-like. He's lying, Rowan murmured. I know. Another knock. Harder. Mara, don't make this difficult. You know how this ends. She found her voice. Go away, Tommy. Laughter from outside, multiple voices. See, that's not going to work. His voice changed, got harder. You got until the count of 10, then we're coming in. Rowan glanced at her. Can you shoot? I don't know. Figure it out fast. He moved to the other window. When they come through, And they will come through. You point and you squeeze. Don't think. Don't hesitate. Just shoot. I can't kill someone. Then they'll kill you, or worse, your choice. Outside. 1. Mara's hands found the pistol. It felt heavier now, more real. 2. I can't do this, she whispered. You can. You just don't want to. There's a difference. I know. She stood, moved to the counter. Her legs felt like water. I know. 3. Rowan settled into position, rifle trained on the door. When they come through, I'll take the first one. You take whoever comes after. Aim for the chest. Biggest target. 4. What if I miss? Then shoot again. 5. The trading post was too quiet. She could hear her own heartbeat, her own breathing. Outside, the voices had stopped counting, waiting. 6. Rowan? Yeah? Thank you for helping. He glanced at her. Something almost like a smile crossed his face. Don't thank me yet. We might both be dead in 5 minutes. 7. Still. Thank you. 8. He nodded, turned back to the window. If we live, I'm teaching you how to actually shoot. That display earlier was embarrassing. Despite everything, she almost laughed. 9. Rowan's finger moved to the trigger. Here we go. 10. Silence. Nothing. Mara's breath came in short gasps. Her hands were white-knuckled on the pistol. She waited for the crash, the breaking glass, the... Brennan! A new voice, older, authoritative. More footsteps, the sound of a horse. Rowan peered through the window. Well, hell, he muttered. What? Looks like the sheriff just showed up. Through the window, Mara could see a man on horseback, older, gray-haired, wearing a star. He was talking to Tommy, gesturing toward the trading post. The conversation went on for several minutes. Heated. She couldn't hear the words, but she could see Tommy arguing, pointing at the door. The sheriff shook his head, said something sharp. Finally, after what felt like hours, the 4 men mounted their horses and rode off into the darkness. The sheriff stayed. He dismounted, tied his horse, walked to the door, knocked, politely. Miss Whitlock, it's Sheriff Garrett. It's safe now. Rowan lowered his rifle but didn't set it down. Might be a trick. I know his voice. Still. Mara moved to the door. Sheriff? It's me, Mara. Can you open up? She looked at Rowan. He shrugged. Your call. She threw the bolt, cracked the door. Sheriff Garrett stood there, hat in hand, looking tired. He was maybe 60, with kind eyes and a face that had seen too much. When he saw Mara, relief crossed his features. Thank God, he said. When I heard what happened, he stopped, noticed Rowan standing behind her with the rifle. You must be the stranger who broke Curtis Brennan's nose. That's me. Good. The sheriff stepped inside, looked around at the barricaded furniture, the bullet holes in the wall, the spilled flour. Jesus, Mary and Joseph, what happened here? Target practice, Rowan said. In the middle of the trading post? Seemed like a good time to learn. The sheriff looked at Mara. You all right, girl? She nodded, couldn't speak yet. The Brennans are telling a different story, Garrett continued. Saying you invited them in, saying this man attacked them unprovoked. They're lying, Mara managed. I know. He sat down heavily in a chair. I know, but knowing and proving are different things. And the Brennans, they got friends, important friends. So that's it? Rowan's voice was cold. They tried to assault her and they just walk away? For now. Garrett rubbed his face. I warned them off, told them if they came back here, I'd arrest them myself. But Mara, you need to understand, this doesn't end well, for any of you. What are you saying? I'm saying the Brennans don't forget, and they don't forgive. He looked at her with sad eyes. You should think about leaving, going somewhere else, somewhere safe. This is my home. I know, but sometimes home isn't safe anymore. Mara felt something crack inside her. 23 years of making herself small, of swallowing insults, of letting things go because words don't hurt nothing but your pride. And now she was supposed to run? No, she said. Mara said, no. Louder this time. I'm not leaving. Then you're a fool. The sheriff stood. Both of you. This town. It's not like it used to be. People are harder now, meaner. And the law, he gestured at his star. This doesn't mean what it used to. Then what good are you? Rowan asked. Garrett flinched like he'd been slapped. I'm doing what I can. Doesn't seem like much. No, the sheriff agreed quietly. I suppose it doesn't. He moved to the door, put his hat back on. I'll do what I can. Keep them away. But Mara, if you stay, you need to be ready for whatever comes next. I will be. He looked at her for a long moment, then nodded. I believe you might be. He glanced at Rowan. You staying? For now? Good. She needs someone who knows how to fight. He opened the door. Be careful, both of you. Then he was gone, swallowed by the darkness. Mara stood there, listening to his horse ride away. The trading post was the mess. Furniture everywhere, bullet holes, spilled flour, the smell of gunpowder. Everything familiar, suddenly strange. You should have left, Rowan said. Probably. Why didn't you? She looked at the pistol in her hands, at the bullet holes in the wall, at the space where Tommy had grabbed her wrist. Because I'm tired, she said. Tired of being small. Tired of being afraid. Tired of letting things go. Being tired doesn't make you strong. No, but maybe it's a start. She set the pistol on the counter. Will you really teach me to shoot, to fight? Why? Because the sheriff's right. This doesn't end. Not unless I make it end. She met his eyes. So will you? Rowan studied her. She could see him weighing it, the time, the effort, the risk. Then, slowly, he nodded. Yeah, he said. I will. But you need to understand something first. What? Learning to shoot is easy. Learning to kill... He paused. That changes you, and you don't get to go back. I know. Do you? Really? Mara thought about Tommy's hand on her throat, Dale's hand over her mouth, the way her body had frozen, the fear that had consumed her, and the small, terrible part of her that wished she'd had the gun then, that wondered what would have happened if she'd known how to use it. Yes, she said. I know. Rowan was quiet for a moment. Then, all right, we start tomorrow. Early, before the sun's up. Why so early? Because you're soft, and I need to see just how soft before I know what I'm working with. He picked up his rifle. Get some sleep. You're going to need it. He moved to the corner, settled against the wall with the rifle across his lap. Within minutes, he was asleep, or doing a very good impression of it. Mara stood there, looking at the wreckage of her life. Everything she'd worked for, everything she'd endured, scattered across the floor in glass and flour and bullet holes. She should have been crying, should have been terrified. Instead, she felt awake. For the first time in years, maybe ever, she felt awake. Outside, the frontier stretched into darkness, harsh and unforgiving and utterly indifferent to whether she lived or died. But inside, something had changed. Mara Whitlock had pulled a trigger, had stood her ground, had said no. It wasn't much. Maybe it wasn't anything at all. But it was a start. And right now, that was enough. Dawn came cold and gray, the kind of morning that made you question whether the sun had given up entirely. Mara woke to the sound of someone moving furniture, her neck stiff from sleeping upright in the chair behind the counter. For a moment she forgot where she was, why her arms ached, why the trading post smelled like gunpowder. Then she saw Rowan pulling the barricades away from the door, and everything came flooding back. You're up, he said, without turning around. Good. We're losing light. She blinked. It's barely light at all. Exactly. He shoved a heavy chest back into its corner. Get your boots on. We're going outside. My father won't be back until noon at the earliest. Plenty of time. He opened the door, let in a blast of cold air that made her shiver. Move. Mara stood, her body protesting. Everything hurt. Muscles she didn't know she had. Her wrist where Tommy had grabbed her. Her ears still ringing faintly from the gunshots. She pulled on her boots, grabbed her coat. Should I bring the pistol? No, today you're learning something more important. What's that? How to run. He was serious. For the next hour, as the sun crept reluctantly over the horizon, Rowan made her run. Not far, maybe a mile out and back. But the pace was brutal. Every time she slowed, he was there beside her, not even breathing hard. Faster. I can't. You can. Your body's just not used to listening to you yet. Faster. By the time they got back to the trading post, Mara was doubled over, gasping, tasting copper. Her legs felt like someone had replaced the bones with wet rope. That was torture, she managed. That was a warm-up. Rowan handed her a canteen. Drink, not too much. She drank anyway, the water cold and perfect. Why running? I thought you were teaching me to shoot. I am. But shooting only matters if you're alive to do it. And staying alive means being able to move when you need to. He took the canteen back. Now, show me what you can lift. What? That barrel. He pointed to a half-full water barrel near the door. Pick it up. That's got a way. Pick it up. She tried. Got her arms around it, strained, managed to lift it maybe 3 inches before her grip failed, and it thudded back down. Pathetic, Rowan said. It's heavy. It's half empty. A full one weighs twice that. He moved to the barrel, lifted it one-handed, carried it across the room like it was nothing, set it down gently. You're weak. That's a problem. I'm not weak. You can't lift a barrel, can't run a mile without collapsing, can barely hold a pistol steady. He looked at her, not unkindly. You're weak. And out here, weak gets you killed. The words stung because they were true. Mara had spent her whole life being told she was too thin, too gangly, too much like a fence post. She'd learned to accept it, to work around it. But hearing it laid out so plainly, so matter-of-factly, hit different. So what do I do? Get stronger. He pointed to the barrel. Every morning you try to lift that. Every morning you run. Every morning you push until you think you can't anymore. And then you push a little further. And then you'll teach me to shoot? I'll teach you to shoot now, but shooting won't save you if you can't move, can't fight, can't survive without a gun in your hand. He walked to the counter, picked up the pistol. Being dangerous isn't about one skill. It's about becoming someone who doesn't quit when things get hard. I don't quit. No? He held out the pistol. Then prove it. We're going outside, bringing targets. The next 2 hours were humbling in ways Mara hadn't anticipated. Rowan set up cans and bottles on fence posts, made her shoot from different distances, different positions, standing, kneeling, prone. She missed more than she hit, and the ones she hit were mostly luck. You're flinching, he said after her 20th miss in a row. I'm not. You are. Right before you pull the trigger, you tense up, anticipating the kick. He moved behind her, adjusted her stance. Stop thinking about what's going to happen and focus on what's happening now. That doesn't make sense. It will. Shoot. She aimed at a bottle maybe 15 feet away. Breathed, squeezed. The bottle exploded. There, Rowan said. That's what it feels like when you're not fighting yourself. By the time they finished, the sun was fully up and Mara's hands were raw from the pistol's grip. She'd hit maybe one target out of every 4 attempts. It felt like failure. You're thinking too much, Rowan said, reloading the pistol. I can see it on your face, counting misses. I hit 5 out of 20. So? Yesterday you couldn't hit anything. Today you hit 5. Tomorrow maybe you hit 7. He handed her the loaded pistol. Stop measuring yourself against perfect. Just measure against yesterday. They were walking back toward the trading post when they saw the horse, a single rider, coming fast from the direction of the Patterson ranch. Rowan's hand moved to his rifle. Get behind me. It might be my father. Might be. Get behind me anyway. But it was Jacob Whitlock, riding hard, his face tight with worry. He pulled up short when he saw them, took in Mara's disheveled appearance, the pistol in her hand, Rowan standing there with his rifle. What the hell happened? Jacob dismounted before his horse had fully stopped. Sheriff Garrett sent word to the ranch. Said there was trouble. Said the Brennan boys. He stopped, looked at Mara. Really looked at her. Did they hurt you? No. Her voice came out steadier than she felt. Rowan stopped them. Jacob's eyes moved to the stranger. You're the one who broke Curtis's nose. That's me. Sheriff said you saved my daughter. I helped. She saved herself. Rowan nodded toward the trading post. You should see inside, though. She's been practicing. They went in. Jacob stood in the doorway, staring at the bullet holes, the overturned furniture, the flowers still dusting everything like snow. His face went through several emotions before settling on something between anger and fear. Mara, what the hell were you thinking? I was thinking I didn't want to be helpless, she said quietly. So you shot up my store? So I learned to shoot. There's a difference. Jacob looked at her like he'd never seen her before. Maybe he hadn't. Maybe he'd been looking at the same ghost Mara had been for years, the quiet girl who counted inventory and kept her head down and never caused trouble. You should have run, he said finally. Should have locked the door and hidden until I got back. I tried that. They were already inside. Then you should have... He stopped, sat down heavily. Jesus, Mara, you could have been killed. I know. You don't know. You don't know what men like that are capable of. What they would have... His voice broke. I should have been here. You had a delivery to make. I should have been here. Rowan cleared his throat. If it helps, your daughter's got decent instincts. Raw as hell, but decent. Another few weeks and she might actually be dangerous. A few weeks? Jacob looked up. You're staying? Seems like someone should. I can't pay you. Didn't ask you to. Rowan moved to the window, looked out at the empty street. But those men are coming back. Maybe not today, maybe not tomorrow, but they're coming. And when they do, you want your daughter to know which end of a gun to point. Jacob was quiet for a long time. Finally, you military? Was, long time ago. Mexico? And other places I don't talk about. Rowan turned from the window. Look, I don't need your life story and you don't need mine, but I know men like the Brennans, and I know they don't forget. So either you teach your daughter to fight, or I do, or you bury her. Those are your options. That's a hell of a thing to say. It's a hell of a situation. Mara watched her father struggle with it. She'd seen him face down creditors, deal with difficult customers, navigate the politics of frontier life. But this was different. This was about accepting that his daughter, his quiet, invisible daughter, needed to learn how to kill. All right, Jacob said finally, you can stay. Teach her. But Mara, he looked at her. This changes things. You understand that? Once you go down this road, you can't come back from it. I know. Do you? Really? She thought about Tommy's hand on her throat, the way her body had frozen, the shame of it. Yes, she said. I know. Over the next week, Mara learned what real work felt like. Every morning before dawn, Rowan had her running, then lifting. Not the barrel anymore, but anything heavy. Flour sacks, crates, fence posts, building strength in her arms, her back, her legs, then shooting. Hours of it, until her hands blistered and her ears rang and she could barely lift the pistol. And every evening, bruised and exhausted, she worked the trading post like nothing had changed, except everything had changed. People noticed. They always noticed. But now instead of pitying glances, she got nervous ones. Word had spread about the Brennan confrontation, about the bullet holes in the trading post walls, about the scarecrow girl learning to shoot. Mary Beth Callahan came in on the third day, buying sugar. She kept glancing at Mara's hands, raw and blistered from the pistol grip. Heard you've been practicing, Mary Beth said carefully. Some. Heard you shot up half the store. Just the one wall. Mara measured out the sugar. That'll be 15 cents. Mary Beth paid, but she didn't leave. People are talking, you know, saying you're getting ideas, saying you're going to get yourself killed. People talk a lot. Mara... Mary Beth leaned in close. The Brennans aren't like regular folk. They've got connections, money. They do what they want and the law doesn't touch them. You can't win against that. Maybe not, but I can make it expensive. Mary Beth blinked. What? For them to win, I can make it expensive. Mara handed over the sugar. Was there anything else? After Mary Beth left, Jacob came out from the back room. You shouldn't talk like that. People will think you're looking for trouble. I'm not looking for it. But if it comes, I'm not running from it either. That's what worries me. He sat down, looked at his daughter. When did you get so hard? I'm not hard. I'm just tired of being soft. Outside, Rowan was teaching her to track. They'd walk the perimeter of town and he'd point out signs she'd never noticed before. Footprints, broken branches, disturbed earth, reading the land like a book. Why do I need to know this? She asked. I'm not hunting anyone. No, but they might be hunting you. He knelt, pointed at a track in the dirt. Boot print. Maybe 2 days old. Heavy man, probably over 200 pounds. Walking slow, deliberate. See how the heel's deeper than the toe? So? So he was carrying something, or watching something. Either way, you know someone was here, and you know they weren't in a hurry. He stood. That's information. Information keeps you alive. They were heading back when they saw the smoke. Not much, just a thin column rising from beyond the ridge, maybe 3 miles out. Rowan stopped, watched it. Could be a campfire, Mara said. Could be. Wrong time of day for it, though. He studied the smoke. And it's coming from Patterson's direction. They looked at each other. Probably nothing, she said. Probably. But he started walking faster. By the time they reached the ridge, they could hear the shouting. They crested the rise and saw the Patterson ranch below, or what was left of it. The barn was burning, black smoke pouring into the sky. People were running everywhere, trying to put it out with bucket chains from the well. And in the middle of it all, lying in the dirt near the corral, was a man, not moving. Jesus, Mara breathed. Rowan was already running. They reached the ranch as Doc Morrison was kneeling over the man, Thomas Patterson, the ranch owner. There was blood. Too much blood. It was coming from his chest, spreading across his shirt in a dark stain. What happened? Rowan asked. Raiders, someone said. A ranch hand, soot-covered and wild-eyed. Came in shooting, demanded money, horses. When Mr. Patterson refused, he gestured at the burning barn. Shot him, left him to die. How many? Rowan's voice was cold. 4, maybe 5. Rode off heading west. Doc Morrison looked up from Thomas. He's alive. Barely. But if we don't get him to town, to proper medical care... He didn't finish the sentence. I'll get a wagon, Jacob said. He'd followed them from town, had been standing back watching. Now he moved into action, commandeering a cart. Mara stood there, watching them load Thomas onto the wagon, watching his wife sob, watching his children, 3 of them, all under 10, try to understand why their father wouldn't wake up, and she felt something cold settle into her chest. Not fear this time. Something else, something harder. We should go after them, she said quietly. Rowan looked at her. What? The raiders. We should go after them. No. Why not? They shot a man, burned his barn. They can't just... They can. And they did. He grabbed her arm, not rough, but firm. This isn't your fight. The hell it isn't, she pulled away. That could have been my father. Could have been anyone. Someone has to... Someone does. The sheriff. The law. He was using his calm voice, the one that meant he was working to stay patient. Not you. The sheriff can't even control the Brennans, and you think he's going to catch raiders? She was breathing hard now, anger mixing with the fear, with the helplessness. Someone has to do something. And what are you going to do? You can barely hit a target from 15 feet. You want to go up against armed men on horseback? He moved closer. That man's been shot. You know what that means? It means someone pointed a gun at him and pulled the trigger. You ever done that? Ever looked someone in the eye and decided to end them? No, but nothing. You're not ready. Not even close. She wanted to argue, wanted to scream that she was ready, that she could do this, that she was tired of being told what she couldn't handle. But the words died in her throat because he was right. She couldn't even lift a water barrel 3 days ago. How was she supposed to hunt down killers? The rage drained out of her, leaving exhaustion in its place. So we just let them go? For now. He was looking at the smoke, at the blood in the dirt, at Thomas Patterson barely clinging to life. But you remember this. Remember what it feels like to be too weak to fight back. Use it. That night, the town held an emergency meeting in the church. Everyone came, ranchers, shopkeepers, families. Sheriff Garrett stood at the front, looking older than his years. We all know why we're here, he said. Thomas Patterson was shot today. His barn burned, and the men who did it are still out there. So what are you going to do about it? Someone shouted. I'm forming a posse. We ride out at first light, track these men down, bring them to justice. And if they resist? Garrett's face was grim. Then we do what needs doing. People started volunteering immediately. Ranch hands, cowboys, anyone who could sit a horse and shoot straight. Mara watched them, these men so eager to ride out and be heroes. Her father stood up. I'll go. Jacob, no, Mara said. Someone has to. He looked at her. You stay here. Mind the store. I'll be back in a few days. You don't know that. I'll be back. Rowan was leaning against the back wall watching. When Jacob sat down, he caught Mara's eye, shook his head slightly. Don't even think about it. But she was thinking about it. Of course she was thinking about it. After the meeting, as people filtered out into the night, Mara found Rowan outside the church. I want to go with them, she said. No. You didn't even let me finish. Don't need to. The answer's no. He started walking toward the trading post. She followed. Why not? My father's going. Half the town's going. Why can't I? Because your father's been shot at before. Because those men know what they're doing. Because you... Stopped, turned to face her. You shot 5 targets out of 20 yesterday. 5. You want to go up against armed raiders with a success rate like that? I'm getting better. Not fast enough. His voice softened slightly. Look, I know what you're feeling. You want to help, want to do something, but charging into a gunfight when you're not ready doesn't make you brave. It makes you dead. So what am I supposed to do? Just wait here like some helpless... Yes, you wait, you practice, you get stronger. And when you're ready, really ready, then you fight. He started walking again. That's how you survive. Patience. But patience had never been good to Mara. Patience had meant enduring insults, swallowing pride, making herself small for 23 years. And where had it gotten her? Cornered by drunk men in her own store. Helpless while someone else had to save her. She didn't want to be patient anymore. The posse rode out at dawn, 15 men, armed and determined. Mara watched from the trading post window as they headed west, following the raiders' trail. Her father rode near the middle, his old army rifle across his saddle. Rowan was already outside, setting up targets for morning practice. You coming? He called. She grabbed the pistol, went outside. The air was cold, the sun just starting to burn off the night. They ran first, 3 miles this time, and she only had to stop twice, then lifting, then shooting. She hit 8 targets out of 20. Better, Rowan said. Not good enough. No, but better than yesterday. That's all you can ask for. They were cleaning the pistol when a rider came thundering into town. Young, maybe 16, covered in dust. He rode straight to the sheriff's office, which was empty now that Garrett had gone with the posse. Mara and Rowan exchanged looks, moved closer. The boy was frantically knocking on the locked door. Sheriff! Sheriff! He's gone, Mara called. With the posse. What's wrong? The boy turned, saw them. His face was pale, eyes wide. The Harrison place. They hit the Harrison place. They're there now. My pa sent me to get help, but the sheriff's... How many? Rowan asked. I don't know. 4, maybe 5. They've got guns and they're... The boy's voice cracked. My ma's there. My sister's. Rowan looked at Mara. She could see him calculating. How long to catch up with the posse? How long to ride to the Harrison ranch? What could happen in that time? How far? He asked the boy. Maybe 8 miles, due north. And they're there now? You're sure? Was when I left 20 minutes ago. The boy was close to tears. Please, someone has to... I'll go. Rowan was already moving toward his horse. You stay here. Like hell, Mara said. He froze. What? I'm coming with you. No, those are people, a family, and you're one man against 4 or 5 raiders. She was already heading for the stable. You need help. You're not ready. I'm ready enough. She saddled her father's horse with shaking hands. Besides, you said it yourself. Sometimes you don't get to choose when you're ready. You just have to go. That's not what I'm coming. You can argue or we can ride, but either way, I'm coming. She could see him fighting with it, see him trying to find the words that would make her stay, keep her safe, prevent what he knew was coming. But there weren't any words like that. Not anymore. "You stay behind me," he said finally. "You don't shoot unless I tell you to. And if things go bad, really bad, you run. You understand?" "I understand." "Say it." "If things go bad, I run." She was lying. They both knew it. They rode hard, the boy leading. The terrain was rough, all rocks and scrub brush, and Mara's horse stumbled twice before they hit open ground. Her hands were already sweating on the reins. The pistol at her hip felt heavy, foreign. "You scared?" Rowan asked, terrified. "Good. Scared keeps you alive. It's when you stop being scared that you make mistakes." They crested a ridge and saw the Harrison Ranch below. Small place, just a house and a shed. 2 horses tied up outside that didn't belong there. Voices shouting inside. 3 visible, Rowan said quietly. "Probably more inside. We go in fast, take them by surprise. You cover the door. Anyone comes out who isn't family, you shoot." "What if I miss?" "Then shoot again." He dismounted, pulled his rifle. "Ready?" She wasn't. Not even close. But she said, "Ready." They moved down the slope, staying low. The boy stayed with the horses. Rowan had made him promise. As they got closer, Mara could hear what the voices were saying. "Don't have any money. We're just farmers." "Then give us your horses, your guns, something." "Please just leave. We won't tell anyone. We won't—" The sound of something breaking, a woman screaming, a child crying. Rowan looked at Mara, mouthed, "Stay here." Then he was gone, moving toward the house like smoke. Mara crouched behind a water trough, pistol drawn, her heart hammering so hard she thought it might crack her ribs. She could see through the window, shapes moving, arguing. 3 men, like Rowan had said, plus the family. And then everything happened at once. Rowan kicked in the door. Someone shouted. Gunfire. A man stumbled out the back door, bleeding from his shoulder. He saw Mara, raised his pistol. She shot first. Missed. He fired. The bullet sang past her head, close enough that she felt the air move. She shot again, hit him in the leg. He screamed, went down, his gun falling into the dirt. More gunfire from inside, breaking glass. Someone yelling. Then silence, sudden and complete. Rowan appeared in the doorway. "Clear. Get in here." Mara ran, stepping over the man she'd shot. He was clutching his leg, cursing, but alive. She'd expected to feel something. Triumph, horror, anything. Instead, she just felt numb. Inside, 2 men lay on the floor, not moving. A third was against the wall, hands raised, blood running from a cut above his eye. The Harrison family, mother, father, 3 children, huddled in the corner, terrified. "You all right?" Rowan asked them. The father nodded shakily. You killed them." "They didn't leave me much choice." Rowan kept his rifle trained on the man against the wall. "Mara, check outside. Make sure there aren't any more." She went back out. The man she'd shot was trying to crawl away, leaving a blood trail. She pointed the pistol at him. "Stop." He stopped. "Who are you?" she asked. "Go to hell." She moved closer, keeping the gun steady. "How many of you are there?" "You're dead. You know that? When my brothers find out?" "How many?" He spat blood. 5 of us. But Carl and Jenks rode ahead. "They'll come back. And when they do, they'll find you in jail or in the ground. Your choice." Her voice was steady now. Strange how steady it was, given that her hands were shaking. "Now shut up." Rowan came out, dragging the 3rd raider. His hands were bound with rope from the barn. "You get anything out of him?" "Says there's 5 total, 2 are ahead somewhere." "That tracks with what this one said." He shoved the bound man toward his bleeding companion. "Tie this one up. Use the belt." Mara did, her hands working automatically. The man she'd shot kept cursing, calling her things she'd been called before. The words slid off like water. They loaded the raiders onto horses, the 2 dead ones draped over saddles, the living ones tied up and barely conscious. The Harrison family watched from the porch, still in shock. "Thank you," the father said. "If you hadn't come—" "Don't thank us yet," Rowan said. "There are still 2 more out there, and they'll know what happened here eventually. You should pack up, head to town for a few days, just until things settle." This is our home. I know, but being dead in your home doesn't do your family any good. The ride back to town took twice as long with the prisoners. Mara rode in silence, watching the blood drip from the man she'd shot. She'd done that. Put a bullet in someone's leg, taken his ability to walk, maybe permanently. She waited for guilt, for horror, for something, but all she felt was tired. They reached town as the sun was setting. People came out to stare as they rode down the main street with their cargo. Whispers followed them. The Scarecrow Girl and the stranger, bringing in raiders like it was nothing. Sheriff Garrett was back, looked stunned when he saw them. "What in the—" "Harrison Ranch," Rowan said. 3 raiders, 2 alive. The other 2? Weren't as lucky. He dismounted, handed the reins to a bystander. "They're talking about 2 more, names Carl and Jenks. You know them?" Garrett's face went white. "Carl Brennan, Tommy's cousin." Everything clicked into place. "The Brennans," Mara said quietly. "Not all of them, but enough." The sheriff looked at the dead men, the living ones. "Jesus Christ, do you know what you've done?" "Stop them from killing a family," Rowan said. "You've started a war." Garrett was pacing now. "The Brennans don't forget, don't forgive, and now you've killed their blood. They shot Thomas Patterson, burned his barn, would have killed the Harrisons." Mara slid off her horse, every muscle screaming. Someone had to stop them. Not like this, not— He looked at her, really looked at her, and she saw recognition dawn. "You shot one of them." "Yes. You, Mara Whitlock, the girl who couldn't even look people in the eye last month." People change. Not that fast, they don't. But he was looking at her differently now. Not like the invisible girl behind the counter, like someone who might actually be dangerous. The posse returned an hour later, empty-handed. Jacob saw Mara standing there with the raiders and went pale. "What did you do?" "What needed doing," she said. That night, after the prisoners were locked up and the dead buried and everyone had gone home, Mara sat outside the trading post and looked at her hands. They were steady now, no shaking, no trembling. Rowan sat down beside her. "You did good today," he said. "I shot a man." "You stopped him from killing you. There's a difference." "Is there?" She turned her hands over. "I keep waiting to feel bad about it, like I'm supposed to, but I don't. I just feel nothing. That's normal." "Is it?" "After the first time? Yeah. The guilt comes later. Or it doesn't. Everyone's different." She was quiet for a long time. Then, "They're going to come for us, aren't they? The Brennans." "Yes. And when they do?" "When they do, you'll be ready." He stood, stretched. "Get some sleep. Tomorrow we train harder." He went inside, left her alone with the night and her thoughts and the memory of pulling the trigger. Somewhere out there, Carl Brennan and Jenks were riding, learning what had happened to their friends, planning their response. And Mara Whitlock sat in the darkness, hands steady, heart quiet, and waited for the storm she knew was coming. Because this time, she wouldn't freeze. This time she wouldn't run. This time, she'd fight back. The guilt came 3 days later. Mara was behind the counter, measuring out flour for Mrs. Chen, when her hands started shaking so badly she spilled half the bag across the floor. The white powder spread like snow, and suddenly she was back at the Harrison Ranch, watching blood drip from the man's leg, hearing him scream. "I need a minute," she said, and walked straight out the back door before Mrs. Chen could respond. She made it to the alley before her stomach rebelled. Everything came up: breakfast, coffee, bile. She knelt in the dirt, shaking, while her body tried to purge something that couldn't be purged. Rowan found her there 10 minutes later. Didn't say anything, just handed her a canteen and sat down on an overturned crate. "Wondered when this would hit," he said. "I shot him." Her voice sounded hollow. "I looked right at him, and I shot him." "Yes." "He might never walk right again. Because of me." "Probably not." Rowan took the canteen back, took a drink himself. "He also might have killed you, or the Harrison kids, but he didn't because you stopped him." "That doesn't make it better." "No, it doesn't." He was quiet for a moment. "After my first kill, real kill, in combat, I couldn't eat for a week. Kept seeing his face. Young guy, maybe 19. He was coming at me with a bayonet and I shot him in the chest. Center mass, just like they taught us. He went down and I stood there watching him die. And all I could think was that he looked like my cousin Jimmy. What did you do? Threw up, just like you. Then I went back to my unit and we moved on because there was a war happening and my feelings didn't matter worth a damn. He stood, stretched. You don't get over it. You just get used to it. And that's almost worse. I don't want to get used to it. Then you're in the wrong line of work. I'm not in any line of work. I run a trading post. Not anymore, you don't. He nodded toward the street. Word spread. Girl who shot a raider, girl who rode out with Rowan Hale and brought back prisoners. You think people see you the same way now? They didn't. Mara had noticed it over the past 3 days. The way conversation stopped when she entered a room. The way people looked at her, not with pity anymore, but with something else. Wariness. Maybe respect. Maybe fear. Mary Beth Callahan had crossed the street to avoid her yesterday. I didn't ask for this, Mara said. Never do. But here we are. He helped her up. Now clean yourself up and get back in there. Mrs. Chen's probably wondering if you ran off with her money. The training got harder after that. Rowan pushed her further, faster, until she could run 5 miles without stopping, could lift the water barrel chest high, could hit 12 targets out of 20. He taught her to shoot from horseback, to reload while moving, to clear a jammed weapon in the dark. And every evening, bruised and exhausted, she worked the counter like nothing had changed. Her father watched it all with growing unease. One night, after closing, he cornered her in the back room. This has to stop, he said. What does? This. All of this. He gestured vaguely. The shooting, the training. You riding out with Rowan like you're some kind of, what? Say it. Gunfighter. The word hung between them. That's what people are calling you. The girl gunfighter, like it's something to be proud of. I don't care what people call me. Well, you should, because that kind of reputation gets people killed. He sat down heavily. I didn't raise you for this. Your mother wouldn't have wanted. Mother's dead. The words came out harsher than she'd intended. She's been dead 12 years, and in that time, how many times have I been told to be quiet? To be small? To just endure? Her voice cracked. I'm done enduring, Papa. I'm done. So what? You're going to shoot your way through every problem? If I have to. That's not how the world works. It's how it's worked so far. She met his eyes. Those men at the Harrison Ranch, they weren't going to leave because someone asked nicely. They were going to kill that family, and someone had to stop them. That someone didn't have to be you. But it was. And I'm not sorry. Jacob looked at his daughter, really looked at her. And Mara saw the moment he realized he didn't know her anymore. Maybe he never had. Maybe he'd been looking at the ghost too, the quiet girl who counted inventory and never caused trouble. Just be careful, he said finally. Please, I already lost your mother. I can't. I know. She softened slightly. I'm being careful. No, you're not. But I love you anyway. That night, Mara couldn't sleep. She lay in her bed above the trading post, listening to the frontier settle into its uneasy quiet, and thought about what her father had said, about reputation, about consequences, about whether she was becoming something she'd hate. She was still awake when the window shattered. The brick came through with enough force to embed itself in the far wall. Wrapped around it was a note. Mara grabbed her pistol, moved to the window, looked out. Empty street. No movement. She picked up the brick carefully, unwrapped the note. The handwriting was crude, angry. You killed my brother. I'm going to kill you, and everyone you love, Carl. Her hands didn't shake. That was the strange part. She stood there holding a death threat, and her hands were perfectly steady. Rowan was at her door seconds later, rifle in hand. You hit? No, just a message. She handed him the note. He read it, jaw tight. Carl Brennan. Told you he'd come. So what do? We get ready. He moved to the broken window, looked out. Because this isn't just talk. This is a declaration. He's coming, and he's bringing everyone he can. They spent the next day fortifying. Rowan had Mara help him board up the lower windows, move heavy furniture against the doors, create firing positions throughout the trading post. Her father protested, We can't just turn my store into a fortress, but he helped anyway. Sheriff Garrett came by around noon, looking haggard. "I can't protect you," he said without preamble. "I got 3 deputies in a town to watch. And the Brennans," he trailed off. "They've got family all over, friends in high places, money. If they want you dead, I can't stop them." "We're not asking you to," Rowan said. "Then what are you asking?" "Nothing. We're telling you. When they come, and they will come, stay out of the way." Garrett's face flushed. "That's my job, keeping the peace." "There's no peace to keep. Not anymore." Rowan went back to hammering boards over a window. "This ends one way. Either the Brennans die or we do. No middle ground. That's murder. That's survival." The sheriff looked at Mara. "You agree with this?" She thought about Tommy's hand on her throat, about the Harrison family huddled in the corner, about the note wrapped around a brick. "Yes," she said. "I agree." "Then you're both fools." But he didn't try to stop them, just walked out shaking his head. That afternoon, Thomas Patterson died. The bullet wound had festered, infection spreading faster than Doc Morrison could fight it. They buried him at sunset, his wife and children standing silent by the grave. Mara attended the funeral. So did half the town. And when it was over, when they were walking away from the fresh-turned earth, Mrs. Patterson stopped her. "They're saying you shot one of them," she said. Her eyes were red but dry. All cried out, "The men who killed my Thomas." "Yes, ma'am." "Did he suffer?" Mara thought about the raider screaming, clutching his leg. "Yes, ma'am." "He did." "Good." Mrs. Patterson's voice was flat, empty. "I hope he suffers more. I hope they all do." She walked away before Mara could respond. That night, Rowan brought out a second rifle, laid it on the counter next to the pistol. "You know how to use this?" "Some. Papa taught me years ago." "Show me." She picked it up, checked if it was loaded. It wasn't. Went through the motions of aiming, breathing, squeezing an empty trigger. "Not terrible," Rowan said. "But you're tensing up again, right before you fire." "I can't help it." "Yes, you can. It's just a habit. Bad one, but still just a habit." He moved behind her, adjusted her stance. "Rifle's different from a pistol. More weight, more power. You need to lean into it, not away from it." They practiced until dark. Loading, aiming, dry firing, over and over until her muscles remembered even when her mind didn't. "Why are you doing this?" Mara asked during a water break. "Really? You could have left weeks ago, could have walked away. Why stay?" Rowan was quiet for a long moment. "Because I didn't help my sister. And every day after she died, I told myself if I ever got another chance, if I ever saw someone who needed help the way she did, I wouldn't walk away." He looked at her. "You're that chance." "I'm not your sister." "No, you're not." She was sweet, gentle, saw the good in people even when there wasn't any. His voice got rough. "You're harder, meaner, more likely to survive." "I don't feel hard." "You don't need to feel it. You just need to be it when it matters." 2 more days passed. Quiet ones. Too quiet. The kind of quiet that made you check over your shoulder, made you jump at shadows. On the 3rd day, a rider came. Young man, dusty from the road, looking nervous. He handed Rowan a sealed letter and rode off before anyone could ask questions. Rowan opened it, read, his face going cold. "What is it?" Mara asked. "Invitation." He handed her the letter. "Carl Brennan wants to talk." The letter was short. "Meet at the old Miller Ranch, 3 miles outside town. Come alone. Unarmed. Talk this out like civilized people." "It's a trap," Jacob said immediately. "Of course it's a trap," Rowan agreed, "but it's also information. He's telling us where he is, what he wants. That's useful." "You can't seriously be considering this." "I'm not, but he doesn't know that yet." Rowan moved to the window, looked out at the street. "He's expecting me to either show up alone and get killed or not show up and look like a coward. Either way, he wins." "So what do we do?" Mara asked. "We don't play his game. We play ours." He turned back to them. "How many people in this town would ride with us? Actually fight?" Jacob thought about it. "Maybe 10. Most are farmers, shopkeepers. Not fighters." Don't need fighters, just need people who can point a gun in the right direction and not run away. He grabbed papers, started writing names. The Harrison family owes us. Thomas Patterson's widow, too. Anyone else got a grudge against the Brennans? Half the town, but having a grudge and risking your life are different things. Then we find out who's willing to cross that line. They spent the next day quietly recruiting. Not everyone said yes. Most didn't. But the ones who did, a rancher named Cole who'd lost livestock to Brennan raids, a shopkeeper named Way, whose daughter had been harassed by Tommy, a widow named Sarah, whose husband had been run off his land by Brennan intimidation, they said yes with conviction. By sunset, they had 12 people. Not an army, barely a posse. But it was something. They met in the back room of the trading post after dark. Rowan laid out a map of the Miller Ranch on the table. Carl thinks we're coming to him, meeting him on his terms, his ground. He traced a finger along the map. We're not. We're going to surround the ranch, cut off escape routes, and when he realizes he's trapped, we offer him a choice. Leave and never come back, or die there. And if he chooses to fight, Cole asked, then we fight. And we don't stop until they're dead or running. Sarah, the widow, spoke up. I've never killed anyone. Hopefully you won't have to, but if it comes to it, you point your rifle at whoever's shooting at you and you pull the trigger. Simple as that. Nothing about this is simple. No, Rowan agreed. It's not. Which is why anyone who wants out, now's the time. Nobody moved. All right then. He looked at each of them. We leave before dawn. Ride quiet, stay spread out. When we get there, we set up positions and we wait. Questions? What about the law? Way asked. Sheriff Garrett isn't coming. This is on us. That's vigilante justice. That's frontier justice. And right now it's the only kind that works. Mara spent that night checking weapons, loading ammunition, trying not to think too hard about what was coming. Jacob found her around midnight, sitting on the floor surrounded by bullets. You don't have to go, he said. Yes, I do. No, you really don't. Let Rowan handle this. Let the others... Papa. She looked up at him. This started because 3 men cornered me in our store. Because I was helpless. Weak. Everything I've done since then, the shooting, the training, all of it, has been to make sure that never happens again. You think I'm going to sit here safe while other people fight my battle? It's not just your battle anymore. I know. But it started as mine, and I'm going to finish it. He sat down next to her, picked up a bullet, turned it over in his fingers. When you were little, you used to hide behind my leg whenever strangers came in. You remember that? No. You were terrified of everything. Loud noises, dogs, other children. Your mother used to worry you'd never grow out of it. He smiled sadly. Guess she was wrong. I'm still terrified, Papa. I'm just better at hiding it now. That's all courage is. Being scared and doing it anyway. They sat in silence for a while. Then Jacob stood, pulled her up, hugged her tight. Come back, he whispered. Whatever happens out there, you come back. I will. Promise me. I promise. She was lying. They both knew it. But sometimes lies were kinder than truth. They rode out at 4 a.m, the world still dark and cold. 12 riders moving through the scrubland like ghosts. Mara rode near the middle, rifle across her saddle, every sense heightened. The Miller Ranch appeared as the sun started to rise. Abandoned for years, the buildings were falling apart, but you could still see the bones of what it had been. Main house, barn, 2 outsheds, good sightlines, easy to defend, perfect for an ambush. Rowan raised a hand. Everyone stopped. They're already here, he said quietly. See the horses? Mara looked. 4 horses tied behind the barn, which meant at least 4 men inside. Could be more on foot, Cole said. Probably are. Rowan dismounted. Sarah, Way, you take the north side. Cole, Harris, take south. Rest of you with me. We surround them, then I call out, give them the choice. And if they start shooting, someone asked, then we shoot back. Hard and fast. Don't give them time to think. He checked his rifle. Remember, we're not here to die. We're here to end this. Whatever it takes. They split up, moving into position. Mara went with Rowan and 3 others, ranch hands named Tom and Jim, and a young woman named Alice who ran the general store. They crept around to the east side of the house, using the outbuildings for cover. The sun was fully up now, golden light painting everything, making the world look peaceful. Beautiful, even. Mara's hands were steady on the rifle. When everyone was in position, Rowan stepped out into the open. "Carl Brennan," he called. "We need to talk." Silence. Then a voice from inside the house. "You're early, and you brought friends. That's rude. You invited me to a trap. Figured I'd return the favor." Laughter. Then Carl appeared in the doorway. Tall man, maybe 30, with Tommy's eyes, but meaner. He was holding a rifle, not pointing it at anyone. Yet. "So what now?" Carl asked. "You kill me? That solve your problems?" "No, but you leaving solves them." Rowan's voice was calm, reasonable. "You and yours get on your horses, ride out, never come back. We let you live. Simple." "And what about my brother, my cousin, the men you killed? What about Thomas Patterson, the Harrison family, the dozen other people you and yours have terrorized?" Rowan took a step forward. "You want justice? Fine. Turn yourselves in, face trial. But we both know that's not going to happen." "No, it's not." Carl smiled. "See, here's the thing. You killed my blood. And Brennans don't forget that, don't forgive it. So your choice is simple. Die now. Quick, or die later, slow. Either way, you die. So do you. Maybe, but I'll take a lot of you with me." Rowan was quiet for a moment, then, "Last chance. Ride away." "No." "Then I'm sorry." "No, you're not." "You're right. I'm not." It happened fast. Carl raised his rifle. Rowan was already moving, diving behind a water trough. The shot went wide, punched through wood. Then everyone was shooting. The world exploded into noise. Mara dropped behind the outbuilding, brought her rifle up, saw a man in the barn window, aimed, fired. The kick slammed into her shoulder, but she held steady, worked the bolt, fired again. The man in the window went down. More gunfire, coming from everywhere. She couldn't tell who was shooting at what. Someone screamed. Couldn't tell if it was her side or theirs. "Move up," Rowan shouted. "Don't let them get set." Mara ran. No thought, just movement. Crossed the open ground to the barn, pressed against the wall. Tom was next to her, bleeding from his arm, but still holding his rifle. "You hit bad?" she asked. "Just a graze. Keep moving." They went in through the side door. The barn was chaos. 2 men behind hay bales, one reloading, one firing out the window. Mara shot the one reloading, center mass. He folded like paper. Tom got the other one. Outside, the shooting was dying down. Sporadic now instead of constant. Mara moved to the window, looked out. Carl was running for the horses. Rowan chased him, rifle up, but before he could shoot, someone else did. Alice. The general store woman. She was standing in the open, rifle to her shoulder, calm as anything. She fired once. Carl's leg buckled. He went down hard, rolled, came up with his pistol, fired 3 times. Alice didn't move, didn't flinch, just worked the bolt and fired again. Carl stopped moving. Then silence. Complete and total. Mara came out of the barn slowly, bodies everywhere, 4 men dead, 1 barely alive and groaning. On their side, Tom bleeding from his arm, Cole with a head wound that looked worse than it was, Sarah sitting in the dirt looking shell-shocked. But everyone was alive. Rowan walked over to Carl's body, looked down at it for a long moment, then spat. "It's done," he said. But it wasn't. Not quite. Because as they were gathering the wounded, preparing to ride back, they heard horses. Lots of them, coming fast from the north. "Shit," Rowan muttered. "Reinforcements." "How many?" Mara asked. He looked through his spyglass. 8? Maybe 10. All armed. "We can't fight that many. Not like this. No, we can't." He looked at the terrain, at the ranch, at their tired, bloodied people. "We run. Now. Fast." They mounted up, leaving the dead where they lay. Rode hard for town, the pursuing riders getting closer. Mara could hear them now, shouting, shooting. A bullet sang past her head. "Split up," Rowan yelled. "Meet at the trading post." Everyone scattered. Mara went east with Tom and Alice, cutting through rough country, their horses stumbling on rocks. Behind them, 3 riders followed. "They're gaining," Tom shouted. "I know." They crested a ridge and suddenly the ground disappeared. A ravine, maybe 15 feet across, rocky bottom, 30 feet down. "Jump it," Alice yelled. "Are you insane?" "Jump or die!" Mara kicked her horse. It hesitated, then launched. For a moment they were flying, suspended, nothing but air and momentum. They hit the far side hard. The horse stumbled, but held. Behind her, Tom made it. Alice made it. The three pursuers pulled up short at the edge. One tried to jump, didn't make it. Horse and rider tumbled into the ravine, screaming. The other two didn't try, just sat there watching as Mara and the others rode away. They reached town as the sun was setting. Most of the others were already back. Rowan had a cut above his eye. Sarah was crying. Way was missing. "Anyone see him?" Rowan asked. Nobody had. They waited an hour, two. Way never came back. That night, Sheriff Garrett arrested them all. Not for fighting, he knew he couldn't make that stick, but for leaving town armed during a crisis, for vigilante action, for disturbing the peace. He locked them in the jail, all 12 survivors, and stood there looking disgusted. "You've started something you can't finish," he said. "The Brennans have friends, family, and now you've given them martyrs." "Carl Brennan was a murderer," Rowan said, "and you're a killer. What's the difference?" "I'm still breathing." Garrett slammed the cell door. "Not for long." But he didn't know Jacob Whitlock. Didn't know that by morning, half the town would be demanding their release. Didn't know that Mrs. Patterson would come forward with evidence of Brennan crimes. Didn't know that 3 other families would testify about raids, threats, violence. By noon, they were free. By sunset, a federal marshal was riding into town, called in by someone with more authority than Garrett had. And by the next morning, warrants were issued for the remaining Brennan associates. Real warrants, legal ones. The frontier was changing, slowly, painfully, but changing. Mara stood outside the trading post, watching the marshal's men round up the last of the Brennan gang. Her father stood beside her, arm around her shoulders. "It's over," he said. "Maybe." "You did good, Mara. Your mother would be proud." She thought about the men she'd killed, the blood on her hands, the way shooting someone had become almost routine. "I don't think she would be," Mara said quietly. "But maybe that's okay. Because the girl her mother had known, the quiet one who hid behind her father's leg, was gone. Had been for weeks now. In her place was someone harder. Someone who'd pulled a trigger and watched men die and felt nothing. Someone dangerous. Rowan came out, started loading his horse. "You're leaving," Mara said. Not a question. "Job's done. Time to move on." "Where will you go?" "Wherever needs going." He tied down his bedroll. "You should come. Got a lot more to teach you." "Can't. The store will run itself. Your father managed before. He'll manage again." He looked at her. "But out here? Out here you're wasted. You could be more." "More what?" "More than this." He gestured at the trading post, the town, the narrow life she'd lived for 23 years. "You're a fighter now, whether you wanted to be or not. Question is what you do with it." She thought about it, about leaving, about becoming something new, something unknown, about her father alone in the trading post, about the girl she'd been and the woman she was becoming. "No," she said finally. "Not yet. But someday." Rowan smiled. "Fair enough. Offer stands. You ever change your mind, send word." He mounted up, tipped his hat to Jacob, and rode off into the frontier. Mara watched him go until he was just a dot on the horizon. Then she turned and walked back into the trading post, past the bullet holes they hadn't bothered to patch, past the counter where Tommy had grabbed her wrist, past the shelf where she'd learned to shoot. She picked up the inventory ledger, opened it, started counting. 27 sacks of grain. The number was the same, but everything else had changed. And this time, when the door opened and a stranger walked in, Mara didn't look away, didn't make herself small. She met his eyes, held them, and smiled. The nightmare started a week after the Miller Ranch. Not every night, just enough to keep Mara off balance. She'd wake up gasping, the smell of gunpowder still in her nose, the weight of the rifle against her shoulder. Sometimes it was Carl Brennan's face. Sometimes it was the man in the barn, folding like paper when her bullet hit him. Sometimes it was Way, who never came back. And in the dreams, she could see what happened to him, even though nobody ever found the body. She didn't tell anyone, just got up, splashed cold water on her face, and went downstairs to count inventory until the shaking stopped. 27 sacks of grain. Still 27. Some things never changed. Jacob noticed anyway. Father's did. You should talk to someone, he said one morning, watching her measure out coffee with hands that trembled slightly. I'm fine. You're not sleeping. I sleep enough. Mara, I said, I'm fine. She set the coffee down harder than necessary. Can we just drop it? He dropped it, but the worry didn't leave his eyes. The town was different now too, quieter, more careful. The federal marshal had rounded up the last of the Brennan associates, but the damage was done. People walked differently, talked differently, looked over their shoulders more, and they looked at Mara differently. She'd catch them staring sometimes, then glancing away when she met their eyes, like they weren't sure what they were seeing anymore. Mary Beth Callahan came into the trading post 2 weeks after the shooting, first time since everything happened. She stood at the counter, wouldn't meet Mara's eyes. I need cornmeal, she said. 2 pounds. Mara measured it out in silence, wrapped it in paper. 30 cents. Mary Beth paid, but before she left, she paused. My brother wants to learn. Learn what? To shoot, like you. She was staring at the wrapped cornmeal like it held answers. He's 16. Thinks if raiders come back, he should know how to defend the house. My pa won't teach him. Says guns are for killing, and he didn't raise his son to be a killer. He's right. Is he? Mary Beth finally looked up. Because you killed men and you're still here. We didn't know how to fight, and he's not, so which is worse? Mara didn't have an answer for that. Tell your brother I can't help him, she said finally. Why not? Because I'm not a teacher. I barely know what I'm doing myself. You know more than most. Mary Beth picked up her cornmeal. Think about it, please. She left before Mara could refuse again. That evening, Mara was closing up when she heard horses. Multiple riders, moving fast. Her hand went automatically to the pistol at her hip. She wore it all the time now, couldn't imagine not wearing it. But when she looked out, it was just ranch hands from the Patterson place. The lead rider dismounted, a woman maybe 40 with sun-weathered skin and hard eyes. Margaret Patterson, Thomas's widow. Mrs. Patterson, Mara said. What can I... We've got a problem. Margaret's voice was clipped, efficient. Rustlers hit us last night, took 20 head of cattle, left 2 of my hands beaten half to death. Did you tell the sheriff? Sheriff's useless. You know that. Margaret moved closer. But you stopped the Brennans. You rode out when nobody else would. That's why I'm here. I can't help you catch rustlers. Why not? Because I got lucky. One time. That doesn't make me... It makes you someone who knows how to fight. Margaret's jaw was tight. Look, I don't have money for hired guns. Don't have time to wait for the law to maybe possibly do something eventually. But I got a ranch to run and 3 kids to feed, and if I don't stop these bastards now, I'll have nothing left. I'm sorry, but I can't or won't. The words hit like a slap. Rowan had said the same thing that first night when he'd put a gun in her hands. Mrs. Patterson, those men who beat my hands? One of them mentioned your name, said they heard about what happened at Miller Ranch, said they'd be back to finish what the Brennans started. Margaret's voice dropped. So you can help me stop them now, or you can wait for them to come here, your choice. Mara felt something cold settle in her chest. They mentioned me specifically? By name. Said the Scarecrow girl needed to learn her place. The old nickname. She hadn't heard it in weeks. Thought maybe it had died with the Brennans. How many of them were there? 6, maybe 7. Hard to tell in the dark. Margaret pulled out a rough map, spread it on the counter. They hit us from the north, drove the cattle west toward the Badlands. My foreman tracked them maybe 5 miles before losing the trail. Mara studied the map. The Badlands were rough country, all canyons and rocks. Good place to hide. Better place for an ambush. I can't do this alone, she said. So don't. Get help. From who? Everyone who rode with us last time is either dead or done fighting. Then find new people. Margaret rolled up the map. You started something at Miller Ranch, whether you wanted to or not. People are watching you now, waiting to see what you do next. I didn't ask for that. None of us ask for what we get. We just deal with it. Margaret headed for the door. I'm leaving at dawn, going after them with whoever's willing. You want to help? Be ready. She left. Mara stood there in the empty trading post, looking at the space where the map had been, and felt the weight of it all pressing down. Jacob came down from upstairs. You're not seriously considering this. She's right. They mentioned my name. They're coming for us either way. So we leave, pack up, head east, start somewhere new. And leave everyone else to deal with them? Mara shook her head. I can't do that. Can't or won't? There's a difference. Is there? He sat down heavily. Mara, you've done enough. You stopped the Brennans. You saved the Harrison family. You don't owe anyone anything else. Maybe not. But if I don't help and someone dies, I'll owe myself. She moved to the stairs. I'm going. Don't try to stop me. I won't. But I'm coming with you. Papa? Don't argue. You're my daughter. If you're riding into danger, I'm riding with you. End of discussion. She wanted to protest, wanted to tell him to stay safe, stay here, let her handle it. But looking at his face, stubborn, determined, scared but resolute, she knew he wouldn't listen. All right, she said. We both go. That night, Mara went to find help. Not the people who'd ridden with them before. Most of them wanted nothing to do with more fighting. But there were others, people who'd heard the stories, who wanted to learn, who saw something in the Scarecrow Girl that they recognized in themselves. Mary Beth's brother, David, 16 years old with his father's rifle and his mother's determination. A farmhand named Lucas who'd lost his sister to raiders 3 years back. A Chinese immigrant named June who ran the laundry and kept a shotgun under his counter. A freed slave named Ruth who'd fought in the war and knew more about violence than any of them. 6 people total, counting Mara and Jacob. Not much, but more than nothing. They met in the back room of the trading post after midnight. Mara spread out Margaret's map on the table. We're not going after the cattle, she said. Let them keep the cattle. We're going after the men. Why? David asked. Because cattle can be replaced, but if we let these men walk away, they'll come back, hit someone else, and eventually they'll come here. She traced the route on the map. They mentioned my name, made this personal, so we make it personal back. That's revenge, June said quietly. That's survival. Ruth leaned forward, studied the map. You're talking about tracking them into the Badlands, hunting them. Yes. That's dangerous work. People die in country like that. People die anyway. At least this way we choose when and how. Ruth was quiet for a moment, then nodded. I'm in. One by one, they all agreed. Young David with his untested rifle, Lucas with his grief, June with his quiet rage, Jacob with his fear for his daughter, and Mara, who'd started all this by refusing to stay invisible. They rode out before dawn. Margaret met them at the Patterson Ranch with 3 of her hands, tough men who knew cattle and country. Together they made a group of 13. Unlucky number. Mara tried not to think about it. The Badlands were worse than the map suggested. All twisted rock and dead-end canyons, the ground treacherous, the heat crushing even in early morning. They rode single file, following the trail Margaret's foreman had marked. How old are these tracks? Mara asked. Day and a half. Maybe 2. Margaret pointed to disturbed ground. They're moving slow, keeping the cattle together. We push hard, we can catch them by nightfall. They pushed hard. Around noon, they found the first body. One of the cattle shot and left to rot. No meat taken, no reason for the killing except meanness. They're thinning the herd, Margaret said, her voice tight. Probably kept the best stock, dumped the rest. 2 miles further, they found 3 more dead cattle, then 5. The trail of bodies led deeper into the canyons. This feels wrong, Jacob muttered. Why leave a trail this obvious? Maybe they don't care, Lucas suggested. Maybe they think nobody's following. Or maybe they want us to follow, Ruth said. She was scanning the canyon walls, rifle ready. This is ambush country. Mara felt it too. The wrongness of it. Too easy, too obvious, But they kept going because turning back meant admitting defeat, and none of them were ready for that. The sun was setting when they heard the gunshot. Just one, sharp and clear, echoing off the canyon walls. Everyone stopped. "Warning shot," Margaret said. "They know we're here." "So what do we do?" David's voice cracked slightly. First real danger he'd faced. "We keep going." Mara dismounted. "But on foot. Leave the horses here with someone who can guard them." Jun volunteered. He was the oldest, the slowest rider. Made sense. The rest of them moved forward on foot, rifles ready, using the rocks for cover. The canyon narrowed ahead, walls closing in until they were walking single file through a gap barely wide enough for two people abreast. That's when Mara saw the rope. "Stop!" she hissed. Everyone froze. She pointed. A rope stretched across the path at ankle height, nearly invisible in the fading light. Following it with her eyes, she saw it led to a pile of rocks balanced precariously above them. "Trap," she said. "Trip it, and those rocks come down." "Jesus," David breathed. "They really are waiting for us." Not waiting, hurting. Ruth moved to the canyon wall, looked up. "This whole thing's a kill box. They funnel us in, drop rocks, pick off survivors." "So we go back," Jacob said. "Find another route." "There is no other route. This canyon's the only way through for 10 miles in either direction." Margaret's face was grim. "They chose the ground. Now we're stuck with it." Mara studied the trap, the rope, the rocks, the narrow passage. An idea formed, terrible and desperate. "We spring it," she said. "What?" "We spring the trap, but we're not in it when it goes off." She looked at Ruth. "You were military. You know anything about making noise?" Ruth smiled slowly. "I know a few things." They spent the next hour rigging a decoy. Used spare rope to create a pulley system, attached it to the trap rope, ran it back 50 yards. When they pulled, the trap would spring, but they'd be safely out of range. "Everybody ready?" Mara asked. Nods all around. They took positions behind cover, rifles aimed at the canyon walls where shooters would logically be. "Do it," Mara said. Ruth pulled. The rope went taut. The trigger released. Rocks came crashing down with a sound like thunder, filling the narrow passage with dust and debris. And from above, exactly as expected, gunfire erupted. 6 shooters, maybe 7, firing down into the kill box where they thought their victims were trapped. Mara counted to 3. Let them empty their first rounds. Let them think it worked. Then she stood up and shot the nearest one in the chest. Everyone else opened fire. The canyon became chaos. Gunshots echoing, men screaming, dust everywhere. Mara couldn't see half of what she was shooting at, just muzzle flashes in the growing dark. She fired until her rifle was empty, dropped behind cover to reload, came back up shooting. Beside her, David was doing the same, mechanical and focused. Lucas was further down, picking targets carefully. Margaret and her hands were laying down steady fire, not trying for kill shots, just keeping the rustlers' heads down. The return fire was sporadic now. Panicked. They'd expected easy victims, got in a fight instead. "Moving up!" Ruth yelled. She was climbing, using the rocks for cover, getting to higher ground. Mara saw what she was doing and followed, Jacob right behind her. They scrambled up the canyon wall, loose rocks sliding under their boots. A bullet pinged off stone near Mara's head. She didn't flinch, just kept climbing. At the top she could see them. 5 men spread out among the rocks, 2 dead or dying, 3 still fighting. One spotted her, swung his rifle around. She shot him in the shoulder. He dropped the rifle, stumbled backward, fell screaming into the canyon. The other 2 tried to run. Ruth got one. Margaret's foreman got the other. Then silence. Sudden and complete except for someone moaning in pain. Mara stood there, breathing hard, ears ringing, looked down at the carnage below, bodies in the rocks, blood on stone, the smell of gunpowder and death. "Everyone alive?" she called. One by one they answered, all present. Lucas had taken a graze across his ribs, but was standing. David was shaking, but whole. Jacob looked 10 years older, but unhurt. They climbed down carefully, found the survivors. 2 men, both wounded badly enough they weren't going anywhere. Margaret's hands tied them up while Margaret herself went to check on June and the horses. Mara walked through the aftermath, looking at faces. The man she'd shot in the barn at Miller Ranch had been a stranger. These men too. But she'd stopped seeing them as people somewhere along the way. Just targets. Just threats to remove. That should have bothered her more than it did. One of the wounded rustlers was conscious, glaring up at her with hate-filled eyes. "You're the scarecrow girl," he spat. "Not anymore. You think this is over? You think killing us changes anything? No, but it stops you from killing anyone else. That's enough." He laughed, wet and painful. "There's always more. Always someone meaner, faster, better. You can't stop them all." "Maybe not, but I can stop you." They hauled the prisoners back to town. Took 2 days, moving slow with wounded men and recovered cattle. When they rode in, half the town came out to watch. Sheriff Garrett met them at the edge of town, took custody of the prisoners. Didn't say anything about vigilante justice this time. Just looked at Morrow with something like resignation. "You're building yourself quite the reputation," he said. "Don't want a reputation, just want people to be safe." Same thing in the end. He gestured to his deputies to take the prisoners. "Federal Marshal wants to talk to you, by the way. Been asking questions." "About what?" "About you. About how a girl who couldn't lift a water barrel 2 months ago is now bringing in outlaws like it's nothing." He paused. "About whether you're a problem or a solution." "What'd you tell him?" "That I don't know yet. Neither do you." The marshal came to the trading post the next day. Older man, maybe 50, with sharp eyes, and a badge that actually meant something. He introduced himself as Marshal Clayton Webb. "Miss Whitlock," he said. "Mind if we talk?" They sat in the back room. Jacob hovered nearby, protective, but Mara waved him off. "I'm not in trouble, am I?" she asked. "That depends. You planning on killing anyone else?" "Not unless they start it." Webb smiled slightly. "Fair enough. Truth is, I'm here because the territory's changing. We're trying to bring law to places that haven't had it. Real law, not just sheriffs who look the other way when powerful men break the rules. And I need people who can help. People who know the frontier, know how to handle themselves, aren't afraid to stand up to the worst this country has to offer." He leaned forward. "People like you." Mara blinked. "You want to hire me?" "Deputy Marshal, you'd work under my supervision, help clean up the worst of the outlaw gangs, bring some order to the chaos. Pay's not great, but it's steady, and it's legal." "I'm not a lawman." "No, but you're a fighter, and right now that's what we need." He stood. "Think about it. Offer's open-ended. When you're ready, send word." He left. Mara sat there, staring at the space where he'd been, trying to process what just happened. "You gonna take it?" Jacob asked from the doorway. "I don't know. Maybe. Probably not." She rubbed her face. "I didn't want any of this. I just wanted to run the store, count inventory, be invisible." "You were never invisible, Mara. You just thought you were." He sat down across from her. "Your mother used to say you had fire inside you. Said someday you'd figure out how to use it. I think she'd be proud." "She'd be terrified. Probably both." He smiled sadly. "What are you going to do?" "I don't know yet, but I need to figure it out soon because people keep coming to me for help, and I don't know if I can keep saying yes." Over the next week, 3 more people asked her for help. A rancher dealing with squatters, a widow whose land was being stolen by a corrupt banker, a family whose daughter had been taken by traffickers. She said no to all of them. Had to. Because she was one person with a rifle and some training, not a miracle worker, not a hero. But the requests kept coming, and every time she said no, she saw the hope die in their eyes, saw them realize that maybe there was no help coming, that maybe they'd have to face their problems alone. On the 8th day, Mary Beth's brother David came back. He'd been practicing, he said. Every day. Could hit 5 targets out of 10 now. "Teach me more," he said. "Please, I need to know how to protect my family." Mara looked at him, 16 years old, scared but determined, holding his father's rifle like it was the only thing keeping him upright. "All right," she said, "but we do this properly. No shortcuts, no easy answers. You learn to shoot, you learn everything that comes with it. The responsibility, the consequences, all of it." "I understand." "No, you don't. But you will." She started teaching him the next morning. Then Lucas asked to join. Then June's nephew. Then Ruth's son. Within 2 weeks, she had 8 students, all learning to shoot, to track, to survive. Jacob watched from the trading post window, shaking his head but not interfering. "You're building an army," he said one evening. "I'm teaching people to defend themselves. There's a difference." "Is there?" "Yes. An army goes looking for fights. We're just preparing for the ones that come to us. And when those fights come, what then? Then we handle them. Together." Word spread. The Scarecrow Girl was teaching people to fight. Building something. Not an army, not exactly, but something close. A group of people who knew how to stand their ground, who wouldn't run when trouble came. The frontier was still harsh, still unforgiving, but maybe it was getting a little less so. 1 month after the Badlands, Mara was closing up the trading post when she heard a familiar voice. "Heard you've been busy." She turned. Rowan Hale stood in the doorway, looking exactly the same as when he'd left. Maybe a little more trail-worn, maybe a little more tired. "Rowan," she felt something loosen in her chest. Hadn't realized how much she'd missed him until now. "What are you doing here?" "Heard stories. Girl gunfighter in some frontier town, teaching people to fight, bringing in outlaws." He smiled. "Figured it had to be you. Nobody else crazy enough." "It just happened. I didn't plan any of it. Best things never are planned." He looked around the trading post, at the patched bullet holes, the worn counter, the shelves she'd restocked 100 times. "Place looks good. You look good too. Harder. Older." "Feel older." "How many now? Since Miller Ranch?" She knew what he was asking. 7. That I pulled the trigger on myself. More if you count the ones other people shot while I was there. "And how are you sleeping?" "Badly. But better than before." He nodded. Understood without her having to explain. "You thought about that Marshall's offer?" "How do you know about that?" "I know things. Kinda my job." He moved to the counter, same place he'd stood that first night. "You should take it." "Why?" "Because you're wasting yourself here. You've got skills now, real ones. You could do more than just defend one town." "Maybe I don't want to do more. Maybe defending one town is enough." "Is it? Really?" He looked at her with those gray eyes that saw too much. "Because from where I'm standing, you're still trying to figure out who you are. And staying here, running this store, teaching a few people to shoot, that's safe. Easy. But it's not what you're meant for." "And what am I meant for?" "I don't know, but I know it's more than this." He pushed off from the counter. "I'm heading to Colorado, taking a job clearing out a gang that's been terrorizing mining camps. Could use help." "Good help." "You're asking me to leave with you." "I'm giving you an option, same as before." He headed for the door. "Think about it. I'll be at the hotel for 2 days. After that, I'm gone. With or without you." He left. Mara stood in the empty trading post, surrounded by grain sacks and canned goods and the life she'd always known, and felt something pull at her. Some restlessness she'd never noticed before. Jacob came downstairs. "He wants you to go with him." "How do you know?" "I'm your father. I know things." He sat at the counter. "Are you going to?" "I don't know. Part of me wants to. Part of me thinks I'm needed here." "You are needed here, but you're needed other places too." He was quiet for a moment. "Your mother and I, we built this life because we wanted stability, safety, a place to call home. But you're not us, Mara. You never were. I'm not a gunfighter either." "No, but you're not a shopkeeper. Not anymore." He smiled sadly. "Whatever you decide, I'll support it. But don't stay because you think you have to. Stay because you want to." That night, Mara lay in bed and thought about it. About staying, about going, about who she was and who she might become. About the girl who'd frozen when 3 men cornered her, and the woman who'd ridden into the Badlands hunting outlaws. About whether she was done changing or just getting started. When morning came, she still didn't have an answer, but she had 2 days to figure it out. 2 days to decide if the life she'd built was enough, or if there was something more waiting out there in the frontier she'd learned to survive. 2 days to choose between safety and possibility. The Scarecrow Girl would have stayed, would have counted grain sacks and kept her head down and been grateful for the quiet life. But Mara Whitlock wasn't the Scarecrow Girl anymore. And maybe that meant it was time to find out who she really was. Mara spent the first day doing everything she normally did. Opened the store at dawn, measured out flour and sugar and coffee for customers who still looked at her sideways. Counted inventory. Still 27 sacks of grain, like the number was mocking her. Taught her students in the afternoon, watching David hit 7 targets out of 10 and trying to feel proud instead of restless. But the whole time, she felt like she was watching herself from a distance, going through motions that didn't fit anymore. That evening, she found Jacob in the back room going over the books. "We're doing better," he said without looking up. "Since everything happened, people feel safer shopping here, like the place is protected." "That's good." "Is it?" He set down his pen. "Because I can see it on your face. You're already gone." "I haven't decided anything." "Haven't you?" He closed the ledger. "Mara, I've watched you these past 2 months. Watched you go from barely able to hold a gun to bringing in outlaws like it's normal. You think I don't see it? You're fighting yourself every day, trying to fit back into a life you've outgrown. This is my home. Home's not a place, it's where you belong, and I don't think you belong here anymore." He stood, moved to the window. "Your mother, she had wanderlust when she was young. Wanted to see everything, do everything. I talked her into settling down, told her we'd build something good here, and we did. But sometimes I wonder if she gave up too much for me." "She never said that." "She wouldn't have. She loved me, loved you. But there were nights I'd catch her staring out at the horizon like she was trying to see what she'd missed." He turned back to her. "Don't make her mistake. Don't settle just because it's easier than choosing. What if I choose wrong? Then you choose wrong, but at least you chose." The second day, Mara woke up knowing what she had to do. Didn't want to know it, but there it was anyway, sitting in her chest like a stone. She found Rowan at the hotel, packing his saddlebags. "I'm coming with you," she said. He didn't look surprised. "When?" "Tomorrow. I need to arrange things first, make sure my students have someone to teach them, make sure Papa can manage the store." "You sure about this?" "No, but I'm sure I can't stay." She sat down on his bed, suddenly exhausted. "I thought stopping the Brennans would be enough. Thought I could go back to normal after, but there is no normal anymore. Every time I stand behind that counter, I feel like I'm pretending to be someone I'm not." "And who are you?" "I don't know yet, but I know I won't figure it out measuring flour." "Fair enough." He tossed her one of his saddlebags. "Start packing. We leave at dawn." She spent the rest of the day saying goodbyes she didn't want to say. Told David he was ready to teach the others now. Told Ruth to keep an eye on them. Told Margaret Patterson that if she needed help, send word and Mara would come back. "You don't owe us anything," Margaret said. "I know, but I'm saying it anyway." The hardest part was telling her father. They sat in the trading post after closing, the space between them full of things neither wanted to say. "I can hire someone to help," Jacob said finally. "Young kid, maybe. Teach them the business." "That'd be good. And you'll write. Let me know you're alive. Every week, I promise. Don't promise things you can't keep." But he was smiling slightly. "Just write when you can. That's enough." They sat in silence for a while. Then Jacob stood, pulled her into a hug so tight it hurt. "Your mother would have liked this," he whispered. "Seeing you brave, seeing you free." "I'm not brave. I'm terrified." "Same thing, remember?" She pulled back, looked at him, memorized his face, the lines around his eyes, the gray in his hair, the way he looked at her like she was still his little girl, even though they both knew she wasn't. "Take care of yourself, Papa." "You too, little scarecrow." The old nickname should have stung. Instead, it just made her sad, like saying goodbye to a ghost she'd been carrying for too long. That night, she packed everything she owned that mattered into 2 saddlebags. Wasn't much. Clothes, the pistol Rowan had taught her with, ammunition, a few supplies. The life she'd built fit into leather bags that barely weighed anything. She should have felt unmoored. Instead, she felt light. Dawn came cold and clear. Mara met Rowan at the stable, both of them moving quietly, not wanting to wake the town. But people came anyway. David and Lucas and Ruth and a dozen others standing in the early morning light to see her off. "You'll come back?" David asked. "Maybe. Someday." She adjusted her saddle, checked the rifle. "But don't wait for me. You're ready to handle things yourself." I'm 16. I'm 23. Age doesn't matter as much as you think. They rode out as the sun was rising, painting the frontier in shades of gold and red. Mara looked back once, saw the trading post getting smaller, saw her father standing in the doorway watching her go. Then she turned forward and didn't look back again. They rode for 3 days before Rowan explained the job. Mining camp called Silver Creek. Been there maybe 5 years, rich veins, good money. Problem is, a gang's moved in, started charging protection fees. Anyone who doesn't pay gets their claim jumped, their equipment sabotaged, sometimes worse. How many in the gang? Maybe 15? Led by a man named Silas Kane. Ex-military, knows what he's doing. He's turned it into a proper operation, collects money, intimidates witnesses, keeps the miners too scared to fight back. And the law? Nearest marshal's office is a week away. By the time they could respond, half the camp would be dead or run off. He glanced at her. That's why they hired me, and why I wanted you along. This isn't a quick fight. It's going to take planning, strategy. I'm not a strategist. No, but you're good at reading people, and you don't quit when things get hard. That's what we need. They reached Silver Creek on the 4th day. It was bigger than Mara expected. Maybe 300 people, all crammed into a narrow valley surrounded by mountains. Tents and shacks sprawled everywhere, smoke from cooking fires hanging in the air. The sound of picks hitting rock echoed constantly, and everywhere she saw fear. People walked with their heads down, spoke in whispers, jumped at sudden sounds. A woman met them at the edge of camp, older, maybe 50, with the kind of weathered face that came from years in the sun. She introduced herself as Catherine Webb, camp administrator. You're the help? She looked Mara up and down. You're younger than I expected. I get that a lot. Well, young or not, we need you. Kane's crew hit 3 more claims last night, beat 2 miners so bad they can't work. Another one's missing entirely. Show us, Rowan said. They spent the day learning the camp layout, talking to miners, getting a sense of the problem. It was worse than Rowan had described. Kane's gang didn't just collect protection money. They controlled everything. Who could work which claims? Who could buy supplies? Who could leave and who had to stay? It was systematic, organized, more like a government than a gang. We can't just shoot them, Mara said that evening. They were in a tent Catherine had provided, planning. There's too many, and if we start a fight in the camp, innocent people will die. So what do you suggest? She thought about it, about the Brennans, about Miller Ranch, about every fight she'd been in. We divide them, make them come to us instead of us going to them. How? Kane's power comes from fear, right? From miners thinking his gang is too strong to fight, so we prove they're not. She traced lines in the dirt floor. We hit them, small strikes, take out 1 or 2 at a time, make them look weak, make them scared. That's guerrilla tactics. It's slow. It's also smart. We're 2 people against 15. Slow is our only option. Rowan studied her for a moment, then smiled. When did you get so tactical? I've been paying attention. They started that night. Found a gang member walking alone, drunk, heading back to camp. Rowan grabbed him, dragged him into the shadows before he could yell, tied him up, took his weapons, left him for the miners to find in the morning with a note pinned to his chest. First one. The camp woke to find him there, unconscious but alive, stripped of his authority and his dignity. Word spread fast. Kane came out himself to see it. Tall man, maybe 40, with cold eyes and a military bearing. He looked at his man tied up and beaten, looked at the note, and his jaw went tight. Who did this? He demanded. Nobody answered. They didn't know. But they were starting to hope. The second night, Mara and Rowan hit 2 more. Caught them at a supply cache, knocked them out, destroyed their stockpile of stolen goods. Left another note, second and third. By the 3rd night, Kane's men were traveling in groups, watching over their shoulders, afraid. It's working, Catherine said. People are talking, saying maybe Kane isn't invincible after all. Talking's not enough, Mara said. We need them to act. Act how? Fight. When the time comes, we need the miners to stand with us. Otherwise, Kane just rebuilds after we leave. Catherine looked doubtful. These are miners, not fighters. Neither was I. 3 months ago, I couldn't even lift a rifle without shaking, but people change when they have to. She met the older woman's eyes. Talk to them. Find out who's willing. We don't need everyone, just enough. By the end of the week, they had 20 volunteers. Miners who'd lost claims, family men tired of being afraid, women whose husbands had been beaten or run off. Catherine trained them in secret, basic shooting, how to take cover, how to follow orders under fire. It wasn't much, but it was something. Kane must have sensed something changing because he made a move, sent word through the camp. Everyone pays double this week, or his men start burning claims. Deadline was 3 days. He's trying to reassert control, Rowan said. Show he's still in charge. Then we show him he's not. Mara looked at the camp spreading below them. We hit him directly. Not his men. Him. That's dangerous. So is everything else we've done. They spent 2 days watching Kane's patterns. He stayed in a large tent at the center of his crew's camp, surrounded by guards. But every evening he walked to the edge of camp alone, stood looking out at the mountains, smoked a cigar. That's his weakness, Mara said. Pride. He thinks he's untouchable. So we touch him. The third evening, they were waiting when Kane came out. Rowan took the first guard silently, knife to the throat. Mara took the second with a rifle butt to the head. By the time Kane realized something was wrong, they had guns pointed at him. Evening, Rowan said pleasantly. Nice night for a walk. Kane didn't look afraid, just annoyed. You're the ones who've been hitting my men. That's us. You know who I am? What I can do? Former captain, Union Army. Fought at Shiloh and Vicksburg. Decorated 3 times. Dishonorably discharged for stealing from your own quartermaster. Rowan smiled. I know exactly who you are. Question is whether you know who we are. 2 dead idiots who thought they could take what's mine. Nothing here is yours, Mara said. You're a thief, a bully, and we're taking it all back. Kane laughed. You in what army? This one. Catherine stepped out of the darkness. Behind her, 20 armed miners, rifles ready. Kane's confidence flickered, just for a second. But enough. Here's how this works, Rowan said. You and your men leave, tonight. Take what you can carry and go, or we end this the hard way. You can't win a fight against my crew. Maybe not, but we'll kill you first, and your second, and your third. And by the time we're done, whoever's left of your gang will run anyway. Rowan's voice went cold. So you can die a hero defending what you stole, or you can leave and find easier marks somewhere else. Your choice. Kane looked at the miners, at their rifles, at their faces, scared but determined. You have until dawn, Mara added. After that, we stop asking nicely. They let him go, watched him walk back to his camp, surrounded by miners who kept their weapons trained on him the whole way. Think you'll run? Catherine asked. Maybe, Rowan said. Maybe not. Either way, we need to be ready. They spent the night preparing, set up defensive positions throughout the camp, armed everyone who was willing, created fallback points if things went bad. Mara moved through it all in a daze, checking weapons, giving instructions, trying not to think about what would happen if Kane called their bluff. Dawn came. The camp held its breath. And then they heard it. Horses. Lots of them. Moving fast. Kane's gang was leaving. Mara climbed to high ground, watched through Rowan's spyglass. 15 riders heading west. Kane at the front, not looking back. Running. They're gone, she said. A cheer went up from the miners. People emerged from tents, embracing, crying, laughing. Catherine stood there looking stunned. I can't believe that worked. Fear's powerful, Rowan said. But so is hope. You just have to give people enough of it. They stayed another week, making sure Kane didn't come back, helping the miners organize a proper security system. Catherine wanted them to stay permanently. We could use people like you. But Rowan declined. This is your camp now, your responsibility. We just helped you take it back. On the last day, as they were preparing to leave, a young miner approached Mara. Couldn't have been more than 20, nervous, holding his hat in his hands. I wanted to thank you, he said. My claim, it's all I got. If Kane had taken it, I'd have nothing, so thank you. You're welcome, but you did the work, stood up when it mattered. Only because you showed us we could. After he left, Rowan looked at her. You're building something, you know, even if you don't mean to. What? A reputation, a name. People are going to start hearing about the woman who helped take down the Brennans, who cleared out Silver Creek. They're going to want that help. Is that a bad thing? Depends on what you want your life to look like. She thought about it, about the trading post she'd left behind, about her father counting grain sacks alone, about the quiet life she could have had. I want it to matter, she said finally. Whatever I do, whoever I become, I want it to matter. Then it will. They rode out the next morning, not back the way they'd come, but further west, into territory Mara had never seen. Mountains gave way to plains, plains to forests, forests to deserts. The frontier kept unfolding, endless and harsh and beautiful. And everywhere they went, there were problems. Gangs controlling water rights, corrupt officials stealing land, outlaws terrorizing settlements. Some they could fix, some they couldn't. But they tried. 6 months passed. Then a year. Mara got harder, faster, better. The shaking in her hands stopped completely. The nightmares came less often. She learned to read terrain like text, to track men across bare rock, to shoot moving targets at 100 yards. And she learned that violence had a cost that couldn't be measured in bodies, that every man she killed took a piece of her with him, that she was becoming someone her younger self wouldn't recognize. But she didn't stop, couldn't stop, because for every settlement they helped, there were 10 more that needed help, and someone had to do it. Marshall Webb found them in a town called Red Bluff, 14 months after Mara had left home. He looked older, more tired, but his badge still shone. I've been tracking you, he said, hearing stories, the woman gunfighter and her partner, cleaning up towns from here to the Colorado border. We're just helping where we can, Mara said. You're doing more than that. You're making a difference. He pulled out a badge, set it on the table. Offer still stands, Deputy Marshal. Work with me instead of around me. Make it official. Mara looked at the badge, at what it represented, law, order, structure. What do you think? She asked Rowan. I think you don't need my permission. He stood. I'm going to get a drink. You two talk. After he left, Webb leaned forward. He's a good man, but he's a drifter. Always will be. You take this badge, you're committing to something bigger, not just helping one town, helping a whole territory. I'm not qualified. Well, you've brought in more outlaws in the past year than half my deputies, cleared out 3 major gangs, saved lives, protected property, restored order. He pushed the badge closer. You're more qualified than most. Can I think about it? Take all the time you need. I'll be here for 3 days. That night, Mara sat alone, holding the badge, thinking about everything that had led her here. From the terrified girl behind the counter to this, someone the law wanted to deputize. Rowan found her around midnight. You gonna take it? Should I? That's not my call. I'm asking anyway. He sat down beside her. You remember what I told you that first night? About how learning to kill changes you? How you can't go back? Yes. I was right. You can't go back to who you were, but that doesn't mean you have to keep going the direction we're going. He looked at the badge. That thing represents structure, rules, working within the law instead of around it. It's a different kind of life than what we've been doing. Is it a better one? I don't know, but it's one where you might sleep at night without seeing ghosts. She thought about that, about the men she'd killed, the blood on her hands, the weight of it all. What will you do? She asked. If I take it? Keep doing what I do, drift, help where I can. Maybe our paths cross again, maybe they don't. He smiled. But either way, I'll know you're out there, making things better. That's enough. The next morning, Mara found Marshall Webb at breakfast. I'll take the badge, she said, but I have conditions. Name them. I work the territory between here and home. Keep an eye on the people I care about. And if something happens, if my father needs me, if my town's in trouble, I drop everything and go, no questions. Done. He handed her the badge. Welcome to the service, Deputy Whitlock. The metal was heavier than she'd expected, cold, real. She pinned it to her coat and felt something shift inside her. Not becoming someone new, just finally accepting who she'd already become. She said goodbye to Rowan that afternoon. He was heading north, chasing rumors of a gang in Montana. They stood by their horses, the moment stretching out. Thank you, she said, for everything, for saving me, for teaching me. for believing I could be more than what I was. I didn't do any of that, you did. He mounted up. Stay alive, Mara Whitlock. You too, Rowan Hale. He rode off. She watched until he disappeared into the horizon, then turned her horse east, toward home. She reached her town on a Tuesday afternoon, 2 years and 3 months after she'd left. The place looked smaller somehow. Or maybe she'd just gotten bigger. Her father was behind the counter when she walked into the trading post. He looked up, saw her, and his face did something complicated before settling on joy. Mara. Hi, Papa. They hugged. He felt frailer than she remembered, or maybe she was just stronger. You look different, he said, pulling back to study her. Harder. Older. Feel it too. She touched the badge on her coat. Got a new job. Deputy Marshal, I heard. He smiled. Your mother would have loved this, seeing you in a position of authority. Would she? Maybe not the shooting part, but the helping people part? Definitely. He gestured around the trading post. I hired someone, young woman named Emma. She's good, keeps the place running while I get old. You're not old. I'm not young. And these past 2 years without you, they felt longer than they should have. He moved to the window, looked out at the street. Town's changed too. After what you did, stopping the Brennans, organizing the defense, people started taking care of each other, looking out. We've got a proper sheriff now, one who actually does his job. Crime's down. It's peaceful. That's good. It is. But it's strange too. Like we needed you to show us we could be better before we actually tried. He turned back to her. You staying? For a while. My territory includes this area, so I'll be back and forth, but I want to spend time here, make sure you're all right. I'm fine, but I won't say no to having my daughter around. Over the next few months, Mara found a rhythm. She'd ride circuit through her territory, helping towns with problems they couldn't solve themselves, bringing in outlaws, mediating disputes. Then she'd come back here, spend a few weeks helping her father, training the students who'd kept practicing, being part of the community she'd saved. It wasn't the life she'd expected, but it was hers. One evening, almost 3 years to the day after Tommy Brennan had first cornered her, Mara was closing up the trading post when David walked in. He was 19 now, taller, confident, wearing a deputy badge of his own. Marshal Webb offered me a position, he said. Working under you, actually. Thought I should tell you before I accepted. You should take it. Yeah? Yeah, you're ready. Have been for a while. She smiled. Welcome to the service, Deputy Callahan. Weird how things work out, isn't it? He leaned against the counter. 3 years ago, I was just a scared kid who couldn't hit anything. Now I'm carrying a badge because the Scarecrow girl taught me how to fight. Don't call me that. Why not? You earned it. Took something people meant as an insult and made it into something they respect. He pushed off the counter. Anyway, I start next week. Figured we could ride together sometimes. Learn from the best. After he left, Mara stood in the empty trading post, looking at the space where everything had started. The bullet holes were patched now, but if you knew where to look, you could still see them. Scars that wouldn't fade. She thought about the girl she'd been. Scared, small, trying to disappear. And about the woman she'd become. Harder, yes. More dangerous, carrying weight that would never fully lift, but alive. Free. Making choices instead of enduring circumstances. Her father came downstairs. You all right? Yeah, just thinking. About? About how much has changed, how much I've changed. Regret any of it? She thought about Way, who never came back. About the men she'd killed. About the nightmares that still came sometimes, less often now, but still there. Some of it, but not the important parts. Good. He sat down beside her. Your mother, she used to say that life isn't about avoiding scars. It's about making sure the scars you get are worth having. She say that before or after you talked her into settling down? After, near the end, actually. His voice got quiet. She didn't regret staying, but she made sure I knew that choosing one path meant leaving others behind. And that was okay, as long as you chose deliberately. I chose deliberately. I know, that's what makes me proud. They sat there as darkness fell, father and daughter, in the trading post where everything had changed. Outside, the frontier continued its endless sprawl, harsh and unforgiving and full of people who needed help. And Mara Whitlock, who'd learned to survive by refusing to stay small, who'd built herself into someone dangerous enough to make a difference, would keep helping them. Not because she had to, but because she'd chosen to. Years later, long after her father had passed, long after she'd risen through the ranks to become marshal herself, long after her name had become something people said with respect instead of pity, Mara would look back on that first moment, when 3 drunk men had cornered her and she'd frozen, and understand something important. That moment hadn't destroyed her. It had given her a choice: stay broken or rebuild into something stronger. She'd chosen to rebuild, and in doing so, had helped others do the same. The frontier never got easy, never got soft, but it got a little bit safer, a little bit better, because of people who refused to quit when things got hard. And among those people, there was a woman who'd once been called Scarecrow, who'd been told she was too thin, too weak, too insignificant to matter. She'd proven them all wrong, not by becoming perfect, not by never making mistakes or never feeling fear, but by standing up anyway, by pulling the trigger when she had to, by building a life that mattered even when it cost her pieces of herself she'd never get back. That was enough. It had to be. Because in the end, that's all any of them could do. Choose to be more than the world expected, fight for something bigger than themselves, and hope that when the dust settled, they'd left things a little bit better than they'd found them. Mara Whitlock had done that, was still doing it, would keep doing it until the frontier didn't need her anymore, or until it finally broke her. Either way, she'd made her choice, and she didn't regret a single scar.